All men are not created equal. No one knew this phrase better than Izuku Midoriya. He learned this at the age of 4 when everyone but him had gained their quirk. In a society filled with superpowered people, he was among the 20% without a quirk. He had spent the last 14 years of his life dreaming of becoming a hero. The only thing was no one believed in him. In a world based around quirks, not having one meant everyone looked down on you, be it with contempt or pity. Even his childhood friend Bakugo Katsuki stopped being his friend and started to bully and ridicule him. No one helped him, no one stopped the abuse. Teachers didn't care, and he didn't tell his mother in fear of making her worry more than she had to. He just wanted one person to believe in him, to tell him those 5 magic words. This all culminates to this day, the day his dreams were finally crushed. No, not without a quirk. All Might paused. It's okay to dream, but make sure it is realistic. He stated as he left Izuku on the rooftop that they had landed on. Izuku was devastated. Even the greatest hero, the one he looked up to with all his heart, had said that his dream was foolish. He hurt so much his chest felt so tight it burned. He wasn't just crying anymore, he was wailing. The pain was so much worse than all the beatings he had gotten from Bakugo over the years. Suddenly his head snapped up as he looked up at the edge of the roof, and Bakugo's words from earlier today came flooding back into his head. If you want a quirk so bad, that's easy. Why don't you take a swan dive off the roof and pray for a quirk in the next life? Izuku slowly stood and started walking over to the edge of the roof. He slowly put his backpack down and slowly took off his shoes. He then climbed over the railing and had one last thought before he jumped. Sorry, Mom. I wish I was just a little stronger. He then let go. As he fell, he finally felt some form of relief. He finally was going to get rid of the pain. Then everything went black, and when he opened his eyes, he was floating in nothingness. He felt nothing, saw nothing, and heard nothing. He was just floating in space. Is this the afterlife? Izuku asked himself. No, this isn't the afterlife. Someone behind him scoffed. Izuku spun around and saw who spoke. It was a man who was around 6 feet 0 inches in height. He had dark skin that had blue markings on his face and arms. He looked to have a very strong build. He had long spiked blue hair that went down to his mid-back. He also was wearing a pair of dark blue torn-up shorts that went to his mid-calves, not shoes, no shirt, and a high-collared dark gray cape, with a necklace that looked to have 5 teeth hung by a string. You going to say something, or just stare? The man deadpanned at him. Who are you? Izuku stuttered. I go by many names, but I forgot my original name a long time ago. You may call me Acnologia, the now-named Acnologia said. Do you know where we are? Izuku asked him since he was starting to worry about what was going on and wondering where they were. I have the gist of it, yeah, Acnologia said as he crossed his arms. We are in a void that is between this life and the next. All souls in all universes travel through here to get to their afterlife, be it heaven, hell, or anything in between. Izuku was awe-stricken that any place like this existed. Acnologia continued. I have no idea how long I have been here, but I woke up here after my death. The being that watches over this place, better known as Death, himself told me to watch your life. So, I did. I know what your world is like and the abuse you have suffered over the years. I was told I would get the remainder of the story after you would end up here. After he finished his explanation, Izuku just stared at him in complete shock and awe. This is insane, Izuku thought. So, you are not from my world? Izuku asked, putting together that Acnologia was from a different world than him. Acnologia nodded. Yes, my world would look like it would take place in your world's past. And instead of quirks, we use something called magic. Izuku was shocked again, then he shouted, Magic, seriously? Acnologia chuckled at that. Yes, and I was one of the strongest in my world, and my magic was Dragon Slayer magic. Izuku was dumbstruck at that one. So, this guy was like the all might of his world if he was one of the strongest, Izuku thought. I'm guessing Dragon Slayer magic was the magic to slay dragons? Izuku asked as he was still trying to wrap his head around this. Yes, it was, but in my world dragon-slaying magic was based on the type of dragon you learned it from. So, if a fire dragon taught you Dragon Slayer magic, you could use fire dragon slaying magic. If a lightning dragon taught you, then you would have lightning dragon slaying magic, etc. This would make you immune to the element you were taught, and you could eat the element to regain your stamina and magic power. Also, when you ate any magic of your element, it would increase your magic container amount, so you would have more magic than before, explained Acnologia. Wow, that is a lot to take in. So what element do you have? Asked Izuku. Acnologia smirked at that, then he went on to explain. That's the thing, I don't have element. I can eat, and am immune to all magic. That's amazing, Izuku exclaimed. Before he could continue, both he and Acnologia felt a rush of wind that nearly blew them both away. They turned in the direction the wind came from, and there stood an incredible tall figure who was covered in an all-black cloak that covered everything but the being's almost pure white hands. They've got to be taller than MT Lady, Izuku screamed mentally. So, you have returned finally, Acnologia stated as he crossed his arms. Yes, I have returned to tell you both the reason you are both here, Death stated. The reason both of you are here is that. He trailed off as he pointed at Acnologia. You need to atone for all the sins you have committed. He then pointed at Izuku. And you have been beaten and broken because something you had no control over. You have a greater heroic spirit than 90% of your modern-day heroes. So, you need a chance to prove you deserve to stand with the rest of them, Death stated. They looked at him wondering how Acnologia was going to repent and how Izuku was going to be given a chance. Your body was destroyed when you died, Acnologia, so now you have none to go back to. And you, Izuku, may have broken your body with your jump, but that is nothing I cannot fix. I am going to merge your souls so you will become one, a being with the knowledge and memories of both. Izuku's body will also take some of Acnologia's characteristics since the body will host a mixture of his and Izuku's soul. Then, with a combination of training and slow adaptation, his body will be at what Acnologia's body was so he can handle all the magical power and his dragon transformation. The power will be different though your abilities will be the same and act the same. Instead of being immune to magic and eating it, that will be changed to quirks. They looked at Death confused, so he elaborated. Think of it this way: if a fire emitter user launched an attack at you, you could eat the flames or just be immune to them. Same could be said with transformation or mutation quirks. Those are more physical. So for an example, if MT Lady transformed and tried to kick you, if you're strong enough, you would not take damage. If you are in your human form, you could be knocked away if the person was strong enough like All Might, but take no damage from the strike. With Acnologia's level of power, though, you shouldn't need to worry. So, if you train hard while your body adapts, you will be ready for UA in 10 months, explained Death. Both Izuku and Acnologia were shocked at what was going to happen. They are going to be merged into one. Acnologia just exhaled, and then a combination looks of both acceptance and resignation appeared on his face as he turned to Izuku. He then stated, "For all I've done, this is the best way for me to repent for my sins, and by combining with someone with such a heroic spirit, it is the best way to do that, so I'll do it." Izuku looked back at him and smiled. "I'll finally have the power to become a hero. I've always told myself I'll do anything for a quirk. Now that I have the chance, I just can't turn it down," Izuku said. They both looked back at Death and together said, "We'll do it." Death nodded and said, "Okay, you'll start the process. It won't hurt. It will just feel like someone stretching you. You will awaken in a second after Izuku hits the ground, and your body will feel as good as new. Now, if you train your body while it evolves, it will take until the entrance exams to reach where Acnologia was before he ate the time rift near the end of his life." Izuku looked at Acnologia with a questionably raised eyebrow. Acnologia shrugged and said, "You'll learn about it soon." Izuku just nodded. "One last thing, if ever need to know something, just think about me in death, and I'll speak with you. Don't do this unless it is life and death." "All right, I am starting the process. Goodbye for now," Death informed them. The next thing Izuku and Acnologia knew, they were being pulled towards each other. Their bodies hit, and they saw a bright light. The next thing they knew, they were laying on the sidewalk. They slowly got up when they realized they were one. It didn't freak him out as much as it would have before. Must be because of Acnologia. "I am no longer just Izuku Midoriya or Acnologia. I am he. We are one," Izuku said. "I'll still go by Izuku Midoriya since that is my name now. I might use my old name for a hero name though," he thought. He looked at his hands and kept clenching his fists. He could already feel the physical and magical power coursing through him. He smirked. This is going to be fun. After Izuku got both his backpack and shoes from the roof of the building he jumped from not 5 minutes ago, he started walking home while deep in thought. A lot has happened in the last half an hour, and he was still wrapping his head around all of it. He had all these memories, both are his, but both are not. He groaned out loud and put his head in his hands. He was going to figure this out. He didn't just have new memories, he also had power now. He could become the hero he always wanted. He lifted his head when he heard an explosion in the distance. Huh, must be another villain attack. Might and go check it out, Izuku thought as turned in that direction and headed towards the explosion. As he got closer, he saw a crowd of people watching something. He started to wade through the crowd to get a better look at what was happening. Once he got to the front of the crowd, he froze, and what he saw shocked him to the core. There in the middle of the alley was the sludge villain from earlier, and he was trying to take control of Bakugo. The heroes were doing nothing, just standing there watching. Just saying things like waiting for a hero with a more useful quirk. Izuku started looking around to see how other people were reacting. They all had a look of shock that the heroes weren't doing anything. Also, they were all asking if this was the villain that All Might caught earlier. As Izuku kept looking around, he noticed long, messy blonde hair. He looked over and saw All Might in his skinny form just standing there and watching as well. Izuku felt pure rage at the heroes. He knows this is different than how he would have reacted before. But now that he is no longer who he used to be, this is how he feels now. The anger was helping him feel the power within him begin to well up. He realized that he had power now, a power that he could use to be a hero. Suddenly, he felt like his head was splitting in two. He bent forward and gripped his head. The pain was unbearable. It took all his control to not scream in pain as memories flooded in. Memories of how to use his new power and information about it. Images and knowledge flashed before his eyes as the headache started to subside. He looked through all the memories and knowledge in a matter of seconds. He felt like smacking himself. He wasn't just some quirkless loser anymore. He was Acnologia, the Dragon King, the Black Dragon of the Apocalypse. He was going to be one of the world's greatest heroes. He stood up straight, and he then started taking stock of himself. Judging from how strong he physically felt, he was about 2 times stronger than he was before. That wasn't much since this body was a skinny and weak 17-year-old, but he wasn't going to look a gift horse in the mouth. He felt his power pool and realized he didn't have much, but once he starts his training, he can up it back to where it once was. He had enough to boost himself physically with his magic for a few seconds, and then maybe one attack if he pushed himself. He could do this. He will save Cock Dash. No Bakugo, they haven't been friends in a long time. He will save Bakugo because it is the right thing to do, also in the name of their old friendship. Izuku took off his backpack and took a deep breath. He immersed himself in the knowledge and memories and wrapped himself in it. He pulled on his power to enhance himself physically and launched forward. Everyone reacted as he launched forward, and people in the crowd yelled and screamed as heroes yelled at him to get back, but Izuku rushed forward. He felt like a bullet as he flew forward. He enhanced his whole body with his power as he rushed towards the villain. Izuku aimed just behind Bakugo as he came rushing in. He straightened his hand out like he was going to use it like a spear or sword. He brought his magically enhanced arm up, and when he was in range swung it down, just behind Bakugo. He cut through the sludge like a hot knife through butter. His slash went all the way through the sludge villain. Bakugo fell to the ground coughing up sludge before he could take a breath, though Izuku grabbed him by the back of his school uniform and with a mighty spin threw him towards the heroes and crowd. He was then struck by a sludge tentacle and flew back a few feet. It didn't hurt that much because of new quirk immunity, but the force is what got him. As he got back to his feet and looked at the villain, who was glaring back, Izuku felt a wave of confidence and smirked at the villain and did something he has never done before. What, your plans all ruined now? Izuku tauntingly asked the villain, who growled and yelled, "You piece of shit, I'll kill you for that." He then launched himself at Izuku, who just stood there impassively. Izuku then took a deep breath, filling his lungs with his air and magic, and released his attack at the charging villain. Dragon's Roar. Izuku roared out as dark green and black beams shot out of his mouth the size and width of his body's height. The blast traveled way too fast for the sludge villain to react, as he was hit by the blast. The villain screamed in pain from the blast. Once he was hit by the blast created a large explosion which sent him everywhere, similarly to All Might's attack from earlier that day. After the smoke cleared, everyone saw Izuku standing there without a scratch on him as he took a few deep breaths because that took a bit out of him. The crowd and heroes then saw the pieces of the villain spread about. They could hear this groaning, so they knew he wasn't dead. The crowd went wild. They started cheering and clapping, saying how strong Izuku was and how powerful his quirk was. The heroes were in a state of shock how quickly Izuku took care of the villain they were struggling with. That is when they started walking towards Izuku while the police came to pick up the villain. 3 of the heroes walked up to him after he regained his breath were MT Lady, Kamui Woods, and Death Arms. The latter 2 were trying to lecture him about what he did was dangerous and could have gotten himself or the hostage hurt or killed. MT Lady was just complaining that he took her popularity. While they kept trying to scold him, Izuku had enough, so he scoffed and said, "None of you were doing anything. So I took it upon myself to be the only competent person here other than Backdraft over there who did something by trying to put out the fires." That shut them up for a second, and before they could respond, Izuku started walking away, and as they tried to call out to him, he stopped and said, "Oh, and you're welcome by the way for doing your fucking job." Having said his piece, Izuku walked back to his backpack, grabbed it, and walked away from the scene. With no one stopping him, because no one would be stupid enough to stop the kid, launched an energy attack out of his mouth. So, he started walking home. He was trying to wrap his head around his day, but before he made it home, he heard something behind him, so stopped and looked over his shoulder and saw it was Bakugo running after him. He seems too far away for me to hear him so well," Izuku thought to himself. Then another rush of information hit him. It seems his sense of smell, hearing, sight, and balance have all been massively enhanced to a high degree. Well, that's going to help, he thought, until the part of motion sickness from vehicles appeared. Damn, looks like there is a downside to the heightened senses. Looks like I can work to bring down the effects though, so that's good, he thought. It was just then that Bakugo caught and starting yelling at him that he didn't need his help, and he was going to be the #1 hero even if Izuku had stupid fucking quirk now. "You hear me, Deku, I don't need your help." Bakugo kept ranting and yelling. Izuku tired of the yelling because it was hurting his new hearing, and he was sick of being talked down to bit back. "Fine, then next time I'll leave you to die," Izuku said back, which caught Bakugo off guard. "What did you say, you shitty in dash?" He was cut off by Izuku, who said, "You heard me, Bakugo, next time I won't save you next time. Also, I'm done being your punching bag. I'll leave you alone if you'll leave me alone, sound fair? Now I must go, have a nice life." Izuku then turned and walked away, leaving a shocked Bakugo who didn't know how to handle the situation. He became enraged but froze when he realized Izuku didn't use his nickname for him. Bakugo looked after him and with great resistance felt a small amount of respect for this new Izuku, but will rather face torture than admit it. So, Bakugo just turned around and headed home. Izuku made it about another block before someone else tried to stop him. He heard who it was a full 15 seconds before they emerged from the side street. All Might appeared in all his glory, announcing he was here. Izuku just stared at him impassively and crossed his arms. All Might then dropped the transformation with a cough. He then looked at Izuku and said, "Young man, you did great work today, and I just wanted to apologize, dash." All Might was then cut off by Izuku, who now looked very annoyed. "What, that you are sorry, and now that I have a quirk, I can be a hero, is that it?" Izuku asked with narrowed eyes and a raised eyebrow. All Might coughed again and tried to start again. Listen, young man, that's not dash." He was cut off again. "Listen, I don't need your pity or your apology. Do you want to know how I got my power?" Izuku asked All Might, and before he could respond, Izuku continued. "After you left me on that roof with my dreams crushed, I decided to do what a bully suggested I should do earlier that day to get a quirk. That advice was, if you want a quirk so bad, that's easy, why don't you take a swan dive off the roof and pray for a quirk in the next life? So that's what I did," Izuku stated as he looked a very distraught All Might in the eyes. Before All Might could even come up with something to say, Izuku continued, "By some stroke of cosmic luck that worked, so no, I don't need a fucking apology from a hypocrite and a liar. So, goodbye, All Might, even we don't see each other ever again, it will still be too soon." Izuku then walked right by him without a second thought to go home. All Might watched after him with sad eyes, realizing what a terrible mistake he made, and now he almost killed an innocent child and lost a very worthy successor. All Might put his head down in shame and walked away. Izuku made it home and didn't want to deal with his worrying mother, so he just asked her to let him know when dinner was ready. Izuku went to his room and started taking down all his All Might memorabilia, and he put it all in bags and boxes, and when he left his room for dinner, he told his mother to donate it. His mother was shocked, and when she asked why he was getting rid of all his stuff, he responded, "Never meet your heroes." Izuku then went back to his room so he could sort through all his memories of both lives and to start a training plan. "I'm going to get control of my powers and be ready for UA in 10 months, he thought to himself. So, with that, he got to work. Starting the next day, Izuku started his new training regimen. His first idea was to start running to build up his stamina and endurance. 1 week into his running, he started to smell something completely awful. He wanted to see what smelled so bad, so he went looking for what caused such a terrible smell. After only a few minutes of looking, did Izuku find what caused the smell. It was a beach covered by trash, mountains of trash to be exact. Izuku saw it was called Dagoba Beach. He looked over the beach and smiled. Not his old shining light smile, no, this was his new smile, a mixture of his and Acnologia's smile. It was creepy and terrifying all at once. He now knew where he can increase his physical strength and magical power now. So, for the next 10 months, Izuku trained his body and magical power every day, morning and night. He also had his mom start cooking him a new kind of meal plan, full of protein, carbs, and vegetables. She was at first reluctant about his training, thinking he was giving himself false hope. That was until he showed her some of his power. She was so happy and excited that he had a quirk now. It stung a little bit when she now believed he could achieve his dream, but he wouldn't have believed in him either with how weak his old body was. He has grown a total of 7 inches, coming to a respectable 6 feet 1 inch, as well as adding about 60 pounds to his frame. None of it was fat, all of it was solid muscle. He gained it from a combination of his workouts and his body adapting to the ever-growing magical pool he gained. He lost the baby fat on his face, giving him a nice chiseled look. He started to gain some of Acnologia's characteristics. His freckles gave way to dark green tribal tattoos that looked exactly like Acnologia's. The only difference is that the color changed. He also got similar tattoos that Acnologia had on his arms as well. Again, they were the same, but Izuku's were dark green. Izuku's hair also changed. The color remained the same, but it became less curly and spikier like Acnologia. He started to grow it out as well. His hair was now down to his shoulder blades. His hair covered his entire head, and he had 2 large bangs frame his face like Acnologia's did. He kept up with his hero journals, though. He needed to keep his analytical skills sharp so he could use them on the fly in the field. His biggest change, though, has been his overall attitude and demeanor. With each passing day, Izuku grew more confident and surer of himself. He had now become more standoffish, though he was more battle-hungry as well and gained a bit of a temper. All these changes were caused by Acnologia's personality bleeding into Izuku. The more power he gained, the more like Acnologia he became. Everyone at his school knew how he saved Bakugo with a quirk. At first, they tried to act nice to him and try to be his friend, but Izuku would sneer at them and tell them off, saying that if they didn't like him before, they aren't worth his time now. As he would tell them off, he would release some of his power to scare whoever it was. Many of the guys never went near him because of the attitude change, plus the way Izuku looks now. They believed he could destroy them in a fight. The girls at his school, though, kept giving him these lustful looks because of how tall and strong he had become. They talked about how hot he was. He disliked it only because of how the girls had treated him in the past. Izuku doesn't care about their opinions, though. He's got a friend who liked him for who he was, so he didn't need them. He gained his new friend 4 months into his training. He had just thrown a large truck into the air and blasted it with a roar. That's when the scent hit him. He could tell it was a person. They smelled of grease, body odor, and surprisingly green apple. That last one confused him, and when he was just about to look for the smell, someone yelled at him. "So, you're the one who keeps throwing around and destroying my spare parts," the person behind him said. Izuku turned around, and his eyes widened at who he saw. Behind him was a girl. No, this was a young woman with a decent 5 feet 6 inches height, She had a pink dreadlock-style hair that went to her shoulders with golden eyes with crosshairs in them that were focusing on him. She was wearing a pair of black work boots and a dark green jumpsuit. The top part, though, was off and tied around her waist. So, the only thing covering her upper body was a tight black tank top that. He could see that she had strong-looking arms, and by the way she was standing, he could tell she had a strong back as well. From what Izuku could tell from seeing how dirty she, and it was mostly dirt, oil, and grease, is that she was an inventor. So, you use this place for parts for your inventions? Izuku asked the filthy girl. Yes, I use all the parts here for my babies, she replied with enthusiasm. Babies? Izuku asked, completely confused. Yes, I build the most wonderful babies, she replied. Izuku put it together that she meant her inventions. So, she wants to be an inventor. Looks like she is working hard for her dreams, Izuku thought as he observed her as she went around the scrap piles. Who are you, by the way? Izuku asked the pink-hair inventor. She whipped around to face him. I am Hatsum Mei, inventor extraordinaire, she replied with this big grin and a slightly crazed look in her eyes. Izuku couldn't deny that she looked impressive with how sure of herself she looked. Now, who are you, Mr. Muscles? Hatsum asked as she appeared in front of him and started feeling him up. Izuku was a little shocked by the sudden groping, but didn't freak out as he would have 4 months ago. Izuku just smirked a little bit. I am Midoriya, Izuku, he replied as he grabbed her hands and looked at her in the eyes. And if you don't want this to escalate, I would stop the groping. She looked at him confused. What do you mean escalate? How can this escalate? She asked with general confusion on her face. Izuku's sweat dropped at that reaction. She was oblivious about those kinds of things, so he decided not to hold it against her. It's nothing. So what are you building now with the parts you were scavenging? Izuku asked her as she started looking through the junk again. I am making a baby for the entrance exam for UA University, she replied. That caught Izuku's attention. Wait, are you telling me you are going to UA? Izuku asked with some genuine excitement in his tone. Yes, I am, she responded proudly. Only the best of the best go to UA, so I am getting into the support course. I am trying to get into the hero course myself, Izuku told her. Really? She screamed excitedly. Do you need any babies to help you? Oh, I know you can become my first client, and I can help you, while you show off my babies. She babbled. Izuku smiled at her. He realized they were the same kind of person, focused solely on their dreams and awkward in social situations. Well, he's gotten better now, but he still doesn't like them. I don't need much for the support equipment, he said as he saw her start to deflate and decided to continue. But I do need some help with my costume design and materials for that if you want to help me, Izuku said. Mei then lit up. Oh, of course I will help you with your costume. But first, what is your quirk? So I need to get materials ready for it, she asked. Izuku had prepared for this question for when anyone asked, and for his quirk registration papers when he updated them a month ago. My quirk mainly deals with energy. He started, having caught her undivided attention as she brought out a notepad and pencil. Izuku smiled at that, seeing their similarities, and continued, I can absorb any kind of energy, be it kinetic, heat, light, etc. I absorb it by eating it and storing it within me. Also, I can negate any energy I don't want to absorb, so I won't take any damage from it. Only if I am stronger than the attack, though. I can also release the stored energy in forms of blasts and enhancements to my body, Izuku explained. He noticed Mei and a crazed smile and gleam in her eyes. Oh my god, this is great. I can think of so many ideas what to make with this quirk, and I know what to use for the costume. She kept going while Izuku smiled at her. It was at that moment that Izuku made his first friend. For the next 6 months, they met up, be it where Mei would work on things while Izuku trained, or he would help haul larger things for her to her shop to help her and get a workout at the same time. As the months went on, they got closer together. Izuku's mother would keep going back and forth. She would be happy and told Izuku she wanted to spoil her grandbabies. Then she would flip and say Izuku was too young to leave her even though he was now 18. Before either Mei or Izuku knew it was time for the UA entrance exam. They lived somewhat close to each other in Yuzudafu, so they took the train together to UA. Izuku used to hate the train because of his new motion sickness, but Mei made him a little band that stopped it. When she gave it to him, Izuku bear hugged her and spun her around, thanking her repeatedly. She laughed, and said it was okay. When they looked at each other in the eyes, they both lightly blushed, and Izuku let her down while looking away. What he didn't notice was the confused look on Mei's face as she put a hand over her heart. They arrived in the gates of UA. Neither of them were nervous. They both knew they will make it into their respective courses. Izuku saw Bakugo, and he noticed Izuku as well. They both nodded to each other as a show of respect. Their relationship is the most changed one. Bakugo stopped trying to put down Izuku and saw him now as a proper rival. They weren't best friends or anything, but their relationship was starting to be repaired. Both Izuku and Mei walked to the registration desk and were told which way each had to go. They told each other good luck and went their separate ways. Izuku went to his written test classroom, and after a few minutes, Cementos walked in. He said he was the proctor. He gave them the test, told them they have 3 hours to complete the test, and then told them to begin. Izuku didn't just physically train for this day, he studied as well, so he could be at the top both physically and mentally. Izuku was done at a 1-hour mark on the dot. He then spent 10 minutes to check his work twice. He then stood up and handed it in. Cementos was a little shocked and told Izuku just to sit quietly at his desk. Izuku spent the next 2 hours meditating at his desk to prepare his power. When the time was up, they got put in an auditorium. President Mike came in and gave them the rundown of the physical portion of the test. He explained that they would be split up into different groups and go to different areas, and in each area, there would be 3 different kinds of robots. Each one would be worth different points on a scale from 1 to 3. When the presentation was almost done, someone with dark blue hair and glass stood to ask a question. He asked why President Mike didn't talk about the 4th kind of robot and turned and scolded a couple of guys for whispering. Guys gotta stick up his ass. Izuku commented to Bakugo, who in turn broke into a big smirk and chuckled a little bit. President Mike calmed the blue hair boy down and thanked him for his question and informed the audience that the last robot is worth 0 points and not worth it. He then wished them luck, and they all left to go on their buses to their area. Once they got there, they just stood around. Some were mingling, and others were hyping themselves up. Izuku decided to power up a bit in preparation, so he stopped holding back his power. Suddenly, everyone felt a tremendous pressure on themselves. It felt like gravity had just doubled or even tripled. They all noticed it was Izuku who had his eyes closed and was taking a few deep breaths. When Izuku opened his eyes and saw all the looks he was getting, he just smirked. The blue-haired boy from the presentation started trying to scold Izuku. "You there, you must stop using your quirk at once. It is against the rules to use it on others, especially before the test." The waved his arm robotically as he tried to yell at Izuku. Izuku narrowed his eyes at him and responded neutrally. "This isn't my quirk." Before the glasses boy could respond, Izuku continued. "This is a byproduct of me stopping the process of holding my power back." Before anyone could wrap their head around that reveal, the gates flew open and President Mike yelled, "Hello." Izuku then shot off like a rocket into the testing grounds, and others just stood and stared. "What are you doing?" President Mike yelled. "That kid's got the right idea. Nowhere in the field will anyone prepare you. Go, go, go." With that, the entrance exams have begun. Every time Izuku turned his head, he saw another robot. Every robot that Izuku saw, he swiftly destroyed it. He had lost count of his points a while ago. He knows that he is somewhere above 60 though. He did not discriminate on robots. Be it a 3-pointer or lowly 1-pointer, he destroyed them all the same. With every destroyed robot, Izuku was growing more and more excited. This is what he had been missing in all his months of training for UA. It was the call to battle, to mercilessly crush anything that stood in his way. He had lost his shirt along the way. As he got up close and personal, the uniform was cut from all the edges of metal that didn't even harm Izuku. All he had were his black shorts that went to his upper calves. He didn't even wear shoes. He gained a dislike for them the more power he gained. So, for battles, he doesn't wear any. It's not like the pavement or anything could harm him, since through his training his skin has toughened up to high levels of resistance. Izuku moved quickly using his enhanced senses to locate any robot, which was surprisingly easy. He just listened for any movement without a heartbeat attached. As Izuku ran through the streets, he saw other participants destroying robots to get their own points, and he was seeing who the biggest competition would be once they got to UA. Izuku knows he is powerful, but he is still missing a chunk of his power. He knows once he unlocks it, He will be able to stand against even All Might. No, he knows he will be able to crush All Might once he gets that last chunk. Acnologia's memories tell him as such. So, for now, he will continue to grow and use the power he does have to reach his goal of becoming a hero. He hears a group of robots to his left and sees 3 2-pointers and 1 1-pointer. All 4 robots notice him and charge. Izuku smirks. He knows there is a camera on him right now and a few participants are looking, so he decides to give them a show. He sucks in a large amount of air and fills his lungs with oxygen and magical power. Dragon's Roar. Izuku bellows as he launches his blast at the robots, who stood no chance of surviving the attack and were blown away. Izuku exhales and smirks again and is off to look for more. He sees a small-looking guy with balls on his head trying to destroy a couple of 3-pointers with these sticky balls and isn't doing too well. One swings its arm and hits the kid, who flies away screaming, while the second locks on the purple guy and launches a rocket. The ball guy doesn't have his bearings together, so Izuku decides to step in. He uses his magic to move and appear in front of him. Izuku covers his fist in dark green and black power and yells, "Dragon's Destruction Fist," and punches the rocket, blowing it away. The then moves the power from his fist to the end of his pointer finger as he charges up a blast and launches a dark green beam at the second robot, Zero. Izuku calmly states, and blasts the second robot to pieces. No chance of fixing that one. Izuku chuckles to himself. He then looks at the first 3-pointer and launches another Zero at it, destroying it as well. Izuku looks back at the ball-haired participant who by this point got his bearings and saw what Izuku did with a shocked expression. "Don't worry, you're fine now," Izuku tells him. "Fine? You think I'm fine? You just cost me 6 points. Now how am I going to become a hero and get women?" He yells at Izuku with a look of rage on his face. Izuku narrows his eyes at him and snarls, "I just saved your ass, and that's how you say thanks." The guy widens his eyes and starts shaking because of the pressure Izuku was making. "You want to be a hero to get women? That is the lowest reason I have ever heard. That is lower than fame and money. If you do make it into UA and I hear one instance you perving on any of the women, I am personally going to destroy what makes you a man. Do you understand?" Izuku stares him down with a look of death and assurance. Ball Guy's just nodded his head, rapidly too frightened to speak. Izuku huffs and turns away, and without another word heads in a different direction, looking for more points. "Looks like we have a good crop this year," the gun hero sniper remarks. "Yes, all of them look to be doing pretty well," comments the R-rated hero Midnight. The Dean Nizu just hums. "Any of them look good to you?" he asks the skeletal All Might sitting next to him. He sighs and says, "All of them look to have great potential," having his eye on the boy he left to end his own life 10 months ago. Nizu then freezes and says, "Computer change to testing ground B and lock on to participant 7443. All screens lock on to our one and only Izuku Midoriya, who had just come across a group of robots." All the teachers saw as he smirked at the advancing group of robots and roared a blast at them. They were obliterated, nothing was left. This shocked a few teachers, seeing him just take out the robots no problem. "Who is that kid?" Snipe asks, wanting to know what that quirk was. "I don't know, and I don't care. Do you see that body?" Midnight comments as she drools over the image of Izuku. Many roll their eyes at her antics. His name is Izuku Midoriya, and it says here his quirk is energy control. He can absorb or negate all kinds of energy, be it kinetic, heat, light, etc., and if he absorbs it, he stockpiles it and can use it to launch attacks or enhance his body. Nizu remarks. All other teachers were in awe at the explanation of Izuku's quirk. Even Aizawa's eyes widen at the explanation. All Might smiled a little at that, happy that the kid at least got a strong quirk after so much abuse. Wow, that must have taken a long time to learn and control his quirk to such a degree. Ectoplasm comments. That's the thing. His file says he is a late bloomer and didn't get his quirk until 10 months ago when he used for the first time with that sludge villain attack in Mizudafu. That really shocked the teachers. This kid who was dominating the test only had his quirk for 10 months. It was unheard of. "I want him," was all the Aizawa said after that information was said. This kid was quirkless for 14 years, and it looked like he worked his ass off to power up and control his quirk in 10 months. This kid screamed potential. and Aizawa wanted this kid in his class. Don't worry if he passes, he is definitely going to be your problem, Aizawa, Nizu said as they watched Izuku. They saw him move in front of a downed participant, and at that moment Nizu activated the audio on the camera on Izuku now. They heard the attack name for his punch. They thought it was good he already had super move, but confused on why he called it what he did. Then they saw him pull his power into the end of his finger and heard him say that attack name. Many wondered what he meant, and Nizu informed them it was Spanish for zero. They finally heard his conversation with the participant, and many were nodding their heads agreeing with Izuku. Nizu then docked 10 points from participant Mineta for non-heroic actions. No one batted an eye. Back to Izuku, he had destroyed a few more robots at this time, and heard the 3-minute warning and decided to start heading back to the gate. That was when he felt the vibrations and heard the monstrosity that was the zero-pointer. Izuku turned and saw it. The robot was huge and was easily 10 stories tall. Izuku felt his blood pump through him as he felt excitement. Finally, a challenge. He was about to go crazy and go attack that thing on pure instinct when he heard a shout. His head snapped down to the ground, where he saw a girl with brown hair in a bob cut trapped under a piece of rubble. She looked to be in pain and was struggling. He zeroed in on her and saw the arm of the robot fall towards her. Izuku then moved and was at her side in a flash. He then roared out, "Dragon's Destruction Fist," and struck the piece of cement and shattered it. "You all right? Can you walk?" he asked her. "No, I think I broke my ankle," she replied while struggling with the pain. Izuku looked up and saw the hand. He brought his hands up and caught the robot's appendage. Izuku's feet broke the ground from the pressure. He put all that had to hold the arm, and he wasn't budging. "Can you crawl?" Izuku yelled at her. She looked at him with wide eyes and slowly nodded. "Then fucking crawl." He roared at her even louder and angrier that she was just sitting there. She jumped and started crawling away as fast as she could. Izuku looked after her for a few seconds, then turned back to the robot. They were at a stalemate, and that was just pissing Izuku off. He should be stronger than this, he was. His head shot up. That's right, he wasn't just Izuku Midoriya anymore, he was the goddamn Dragon King Acnologia. He then felt something deep within him burn. He felt his power well up and surge. More power than he has felt in this body before. Play Monster by Skillet. Then it struck him, the next bit of knowledge and memories of his other life. Izuku then decided to do the thing that felt right. He roared at the top of his lungs, and his body swam in magical power that covered his body and blocked all sight of him. The power was black and dark green, and it grew around him until it was the size of the robot before him. From the aura of power, a giant clawed hand shot out and punched the robot right in its face. It flew back a good couple 100 feet and landed with a crash. It was then that the offending arm swung around and got rid of the aura, and it revealed a mighty dragon standing on hind legs, scaled angel-looking wings spreading out as it roared at the sky. Everyone watching, be it participants or teachers, were shocked at what they were looking at. This dragon was as tall, or a little taller than the zero-pointer. It also had a stronger build. This dragon was colored black with a dark green color pattern on the black body. The underbelly was a dark matte silver. It was the only part on the dragon that was not black or dark green, excluding the white eyes and teeth. For reference, just look up Acnologia dragon form and turn all blue on that form to dark green. The dragon then turned its attention back to the giant robot trying to stand. The dragon growled, rose up about 1,000 feet in the air, and started to take a deep breath. Roar! The dragon bellowed as it shot a large dark green and black blast from its mouth at the robot. The second it connected, the robot exploded and was incinerated, leaving nothing left of the robot. The dragon then roared to the heavens one last time and started to lower back to the ground. End song if listening. When it landed, it was surrounded with magic power again, but the watchers could tell it was shrinking down. When the power disappeared, there stood Izuku, looking no worse for wear. His shorts look a little cut up, but otherwise, he looked fine. At all the shocked faces aimed at him, Izuku just smirked at them. "What, never seen a dragon before?" he asked sarcastically. Then noticed the brown-haired girl on the ground staring at him in awe. He walked over to her and picked her up bridal style and started walking towards the gate. She was too blown away to even react. That was until he laid her back on the ground in front of Recovery Girl. "Thank you for saving me," She barely mumbled out while she blushed like a tomato. Izuku just chuckled lightly. It's fine. It was just the right thing to do. He then turned to Recovery Girl. Can you heal her? He asked the youthful hero. Of course. I can, Sonny. I've been doing this longer than you have been alive. She said back to him with a gentle huff. Izuku smirked at that, thinking about all the years Acnologia has been alive. You probably tired yourself out with that transformation. Here, have some gummies. Recovery Girl said as she handed him some gummies. Izuku smiled at that. Thank you. You are right though, I am pretty drained. That is the first time I used that transformation. Recovery Girl didn't show it, but on the inside, she was shocked to the core. If that was the first time he used that transformation, then think of the powerhouse he will be when he learns to control it. She internally shivered. She thanked every deity she could think of that he wanted to be a hero. All right, get back to the bus, test is over, she said. Izuku thanked her again and looked at the brown-haired girl. Hope to see you in UA, he said as he turned and headed for the gate. Half an hour later, he was walking towards the entrance gate of UA, where he saw Mei standing there tinkering with something. He smiled when he saw her and called out. She looked up and gave him a blinding smile and ran towards him. Izuku, she yelled as she barreled into his chest for a tight hug. He groaned when she hit him. May, please let go, I am really sore, he told her. She looked at him puzzled because she knows she has never seen him sore before. How are you sore? You are never sore, she commented now that she let go and looked him in the eye. Well, when you try to hold back a 40-story robot with your bare hands, and then turn into a just as big-ass dragon and destroy it, yet get to be sore, he said. Mei was utter shocked. You turned into a dragon? She yelled, which really hurt Izuku's ears, so he winced. Yes, I did. This was the first time I ever have done it, he replied. Mei was still flabbergasted on how he did it. Izuku got a serious face and said, I'll tell you how, but you need the full story first, and I need to tell you that in private, okay? I'll tell you tomorrow since we won't have school, and it will take a while, and I'm sure you will have questions. Mei saw his serious face and nodded, knowing this was big deal. They then turned and started walking home. True to his word, Izuku met Mei the next day and explained all that had transpired those 10 months ago. Izuku talked about his life before that day, and Mei wore a sad and somber expression at that. Then Izuku started to talk about his day he got his powers. He talked about the school day beforehand, being attacked by the sludge villain, meeting All Might, getting his dreams crushed, committing suicide, then what he experienced in the void, and how he talked to Acnologia and death. How he is now a fused soul, and how he saved Bakugo and chewed out All Might. By the end of it, Mei was in tears and hugging him, telling him that she is his friend, will always be there for him no matter what. He just smiled softly and hugged her back and thanked her. He saw or talked to Mei every day after that until their letters appeared. Mei opened hers first, and it showed Power Loader as a hologram. He said she did well on her written test and her entry project. He also said she passed with flying colors for the invention they had to make for a test. He finished with a welcome to the support course, and said that information on what dorm she was in and move-in day were in the envelope. Mei squealed loudly. That hurt Izuku's ears, but he didn't care. He just bear hugged her and congratulated her. They did his next and who appeared, but All Might. He congratulated him on how well he did. All Might said that Izuku got a perfect on the written, which was unheard of before. Next, All Might told him to pass the physical test with an impressive 100 villain points, and also gained some coveted hero points for heroic actions during the test. He got a total of 90 hero points, meaning Izuku got a total of 190 points on the physical exam, which was even higher than All Might got back in the day. He told Izuku it was time for his Hero Academia. All Might wished him luck and said the same about the move-in day, which would start on the Friday before school starts and go through the Sunday. Both Izuku and Mei jumped for joy at this. They were both laughing and giggling. They both got into UA and didn't just pass, but blown it out of the water. Things were starting to look up. The following month, Izuku noticed a couple of other changes that were occurring to him since his first ever dragon transformation. The first change was that of his pupils. They were now slits like that of a snake, or in his case, a dragon. Also, his skin tone darkened a little bit. Nowhere as dark as Acnologia, but it looked like he got a very healthy tan. His hair was now a bit longer and went to Izuku's mid-back, just like Acnologia's once was. With the way he looked, no, One would suspect that Acnologia was his father and got his characteristics and his mother's coloring. Because of his transformation in the middle of the exam, Izuku had to change his quirk registry again. He added the transformation and updated his energy control. He changed it from energy to quirk output and described it sort of how Death did leave out the MT Lady and All Might example though, but still explained it if a physical attack happened caused by a quirk. He also noticed, because of the dragon transformation, is that the chunk of power he was missing before was now unlocked. He couldn't use all of it, but he could feel it slowly bleed into him. Since he was keeping up with his physical training, the power flowed faster. He and Mei were both preparing for the move-in weekend that Yue had. Mei was still a little upset the dorms were based on the course you were in because she wanted to be in the same building as Izuku. He assured her they could hang out all the time still and that they were going to be living closer together than before. That got her out of her bad mood right quick. Her quick 180 caused Izuku to chuckle at her. They decided to move on Saturday so they could get comfortable in the dorms and have the whole day of Sunday to relax. Inko called Izuku's dad Hisashi and told him the wonderful news about Izuku getting into Yue. He had her pass the phone to Izuku. He congratulated Izuku and told Izuku he was so proud of him for reaching his dream. He did ask Izuku for his reasons to be a hero again. Izuku told him his original again, which was the need to save people with a smile. His father tells him that is a commendable reason, and most heroes don't have as good of a reason as that. But then Izuku smirks and tells his father the new reason. I have another reason too now. I want to be a hero out of spite. I want to show these people that a once quirkless person can rise above the rest of the heroes. There was a small pause of silence on the other end of the line, then Izuku hears just roaring laughter. He swears his father laughed for a minute straight. Before Izuku can ask his father if he is all right, his father responds with what Izuku can tell as a smile. That is the greatest thing I have ever heard, I swear. His father chuckles. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree, does it? I can't wait to see what you become, Izuku. His father tells him. Izuku smiles and thanks his father and tells him they'll talk later. Hisashi agrees, and they hang up. 1 week later, Izuku is all packed up and ready to go. He has a tearful goodbye with his mother. While she is crying, he kind of stopped doing that when he got his power. Izuku has all he needs and walks out the door ready to start his journey to become a hero. He meets up with Mei at the train station, who looks like to be carrying kind of light when he asks her about it. She smiles and tells him that she had a baby take what she needed there already. A little affront that she didn't do that for him. She laughed and said with these big, strong muscles he wouldn't need the help as she grabbed his arm and gave a good squeeze. He just smiled at her and laughed. He was extremely happy to have Mei in his life. She was all the positive reinforcement that he will ever need. They made it to Yue. They walked through the gate with no problem because of the IDs they got with their acceptance letters. They started heading towards where the dorm buildings were, and they saw that Izuku's was closer, so they headed towards his first. Once they got there, Izuku opened the main door and looked around the common area. It was a spacious living room with 3 long L-shaped couches. Izuku could halfway see through another doorway and see a kitchen. Then a scent hit him. They were not alone in this room. Izuku snapped to the floor in the middle area between the couches and saw a large yellow sleeping bag. It was zipped up, and the only thing visible about you was inside was a scruffy bearded face. Mei noticed where he was looking and looked over herself. So who's the homeless guy? She asked Izuku. At hearing the question, the eyes of the man in the sleeping bag snapped open and looked at the two of them. He scanned them both. He then turned his eyes to Mei. You aren't part of the hero course, leave, he said very bluntly. At that comment, Izuku narrowed his eyes at the man and stepped in front of Mei. No, she isn't, Izuku said. She is in the support course though, and my friend, and she is also going to help me move my stuff in before we go and check out her dorm. I hope that won't be a problem. Izuku finished with a wide fake smile that showed off his slightly sharpened teeth and slightly elongated canines. The man just looked at him for a second. After a moment, he smirked at Izuku and said, No, it won't be, just don't make a lot of noise and don't break the bed this early into the semester. He finished with a wide, creepy smile as well. Aizu, how can we break the bed? Somehow the guy in the sleeping bag smile got even bigger, and he chuckled at that. With that laugh, he stood up and unzipped the sleeping bag. The man was wearing a black jumpsuit and with black combat boots, a gray belt, and a gray scarf around his neck. He also had long, unkempt black hair that went down to his upper back. "My name is Shota Aizawa, and I am going to be your dorm advisor and your homeroom teacher until you graduate. A couple of quick things. The kitchen is stocked, the showers are separated by gender and are ready to be used. I'll go into the bigger spiel when all the students are moved in," he told Izuku. Izuku just nodded, and with that, he thanked Aizawa for his time. He then grabbed Mei, dragged her away when she was still confused about the bed thing. Aizawa just looked after them and smirked. He then groaned a little bit, knowing that even with all that kid's potential, he was going to be a problem child. He just knew it. Once they got to the third floor where Izuku's room was, they found his door and unlocked it. They walked in and saw it had the bare necessities. It had a bed, desk, dresser plus a closet. There was an attached toilet and sink and a small bathroom connected to the room. "Well, I am going to assume all of the rooms look like this one unless you modify it," Izuku said to Mei, who just nodded. They got to work, and it only took them half an hour to put all his stuff away. He only brought clothes, a laptop, TV, a few of his free weights for a light workout, and his journals with extra school supplies. He did bring a big beanbag chair for whenever Mei came over, though. They then made his bed, and they were all done. They decided to go check hers out and set up her room since they knew her stuff was already there. When they went back downstairs, no one else but Aizawa was there yet. He looked at them and smirked. Before he could open his mouth, Izuku told him, "We are going to set up her room now, and no, we didn't break the bed." Aizawa just kept his smirk and said, "Not yet anyway, there is still time," as he nodded sagely. Izuku just facepalmed and pushed Mei out the door before she could inquire more. It took a 5-minute walk to get to Mei's dorm building. They opened the main door, and inside sat Power Loader with watching the TV. He looked at them and gave the same spiel Aizawa did, so they went up to Mei's dorm room. Another half an hour was spent getting her room set up. They decided to watch a movie, so they went downstairs to get food and drinks. They made popcorn and grabbed a couple of sodas and went back up. They turned on Netflix and started watching a random action movie. They both on the back half of her bed, so their backs were against the wall. About 20 minutes into the movie, Mei started leaning on Izuku. Her head was on his shoulder, and she let out a sigh when she did it. He looked at her out of the corner of his eye, but saw her eyes were still on the movie. He didn't really mind it. In all actuality, it felt pretty good. He could really smell her now. She obviously had taken a shower this morning because she really smelled like the green apple he noticed when he first met her. It must be her shampoo, Izuku thought. After about 5 minutes of Mei leaning on him, Izuku shifted. He lifted his arm, so it moved her head off his shoulder and put it on his chest as he wrapped that arm around her shoulders. She snuggled into him more, making a sound of thanks. He just smiled and continued to watch the movie. About 3 hours later, it was late, and Izuku had to go back to his dorm and sleep. They thanked her for her help earlier in the day and bid her farewell. Once Izuku got to the common room, Power Loader was still there. He turned to Izuku, smirked, and gave him a thumbs up. Izuku just scoffed and rolled his eyes and left. He stepped outside and took a deep breath. He just knows this was going to be a good experience. He went back to his dorm building, and when he went in, he saw Aizawa still on the floor. Izuku cleared his throat, and when Aizawa opened his eyes, Izuku asked him if where the weight room on campus was. Aizawa told him it was in the auxiliary building. Izuku thanked him and then went to his room and went to bed. Izuku got up at his normal 6 a.m. and put on a pair of shorts and a t-shirt to start his morning run. He didn't have shoes on because, again, he doesn't like them when he is being physical. He began his run. He ran the circumference of campus about 5 times for a nice warm-up. The entire time, he felt like someone was watching him. He didn't notice the cameras and chucked it up to that. He then went to the weight room and began his lifting. He did an all-around circuit today. He did bench press, lat pulls down, curls, triceps extensions, and squats. Even without his magic enhancing him, Izuku was strong. He would bench double his body weight and do about 100 pull-ups in a row without fail. After he was done, he went back to the dorm and saw some boxes outside, meaning that someone else was moving in. As he walked up, he saw a tall black-haired girl which was kept in a tight, spiky ponytail. She wasn't as tall as him, but had a few inches on Mei. She looked to be 5 feet 9 inches and have a slimmer build, but she wasn't skinny. She also looked to be well endowed with a killer figure. She was wearing a nice white with a light blue floral patterned sundress. Some men were hauling the things in for her. I must be rich. Izuku thought as he walked up. That is when she noticed him, and when she did, she blushed. That confused for a second when he realized he is not wearing a shirt. He took it off when he started his weight training. Oh, sorry about this. My shirt got really sweaty during my workout, so I took it off, Izuku explained to her with a small smile. Oh, that's quite all right. Sorry for making you feel uncomfortable. My name is Momo Yaoyorozu. You can call me Momo, though, she said to him with a small smile of her own. That's okay. My name is Izuku Midoriya, and you can call me Izuku as well because I hate formalities, Izuku informed her. This happened when Acnologia's personality fully integrated with Izuku's. Well, do you need any help? Izuku asked her. Oh, no thank you, but thanks for the offer though, Momo replied. Izuku just nodded and wished her a good day as he went to take a shower. After that, he hung out in his room for the rest of the day. He only went out at lunch to get food, then he went back to his room and laid around hours. That is when he heard a knock on his door. Izuku went to answer, and when he opened, up there stood a blonde-haired guy with a black lightning bolt in his hair. He was wearing a gray t-shirt and black sweatpants. He smiled when he saw Izuku. Hi, my name is Denki Kaminari, and Momo mentioned you would be in your room. You are the only one not in the common area, and we all decided to eat with each other and get to know each other a little bit. The now named Kaminari said. Izuku smiled at him and said he will be down in a minute. Izuku grabbed his phone and left his room to meet the others in his class. When he got downstairs, he saw a wide variety of people. Okay, everyone is going to look the same to the anime, except one person who I will describe. The only difference will be everyone is slightly taller, and the guys will have slightly bigger builds since they are older, and girls will be a little bit more well-endowed because they have more mature bodies. Remember, this is a college AU, and everyone is either 18 or older. He could tell that everyone had such a different variety of quirks. One person caught his eye because they were staring at him. She a unique appearance. She two different colors for her hair. The right half was white, and the left half was red. She had her hair was long, and she had it pulled into a ponytail that went down to her mid-back. She in two different colored eyes as well. The right was gray, and the left was the bright blue. She did have this burn scar that covered her left eye. For some reason found it kind of attractive. He could not tell you why. She was about 2 inches shorter than Momo, so she was only a little taller than Mei. She was wearing a tight sweater and a long skirt. She was well endowed as well. Not as much as Momo, but about the same size as Mei. Before he could ask why she was staring at him, he was then noticed by the rest of the class. That is when the glasses guy stood up and walked over to him. Izuku narrowed his eyes at him and crossed his arms. That is when the guy bowed to him. It was a perfect 90-degree bow of the waist. I am sorry about how I acted at the entrance exam. You showed that you were a proper hero when you took down the 0-pointer to save that girl, and I just wanted to introduce myself and get off on the right foot, the glasses boy said. Izuku widens his eyes at him. He then uncrossed his arms and put out his hand with a smirk and said, all is forgiven, and my name is Izuku Midoriya, but you can call me Izuku. He then turned his head to the rest of the class that goes to the rest of you, as well call me Izuku, I hate formalities. Many smiled at him for that, while the glass boy straightened and took Izuku's hand in his own for a handshake. Thank you. Izuku, you are a perfect example of a hero. My name is Tenya Ida, and I hope we get along, Ida said to Izuku. Izuku just nodded and they went sit with the others and started chatting and eating with them. The brown-haired girl from the exam introduced herself as Achiko Uraraka and thanked him again for saving her. Izuku just waved it off, saying it was no big deal. The frog girl who wanted to be called Tsu then asked Izuku a question that caught the others' attention. Izuku, I am a blunt person, so I am going to be blunt. Why are my frog instincts screaming that you are an apex predator? This made Izuku smirk. That is just because of my transformation, Izuku said, which caused everyone who didn't see his transformation to look confused. They wondered what that was until Ida spoke up. Indeed, and it is an impressive transformation. He used it to destroy the 0-pointer. There was nothing left once Izuku was done with it. This caused everyone who was in the entrance exams to widen their eyes. Wait, you obliterated the 0-pointer. The pink-skinned Mina yelled out in shock. Indeed, I did, Izuku said as he took a drink. I could have beaten it without the transformation, but it would have taken longer. He informed them. What is your transformation? asked the now-named Shoko Todoroki. I turn into a dragon, Izuku said with nonchalance. Like the dragon hero Ryukyu? Momo asked. No, mine is completely different. I would show you, but I don't think I have permission, Izuku said. Just then Aizawa popped up and said, I'll allow it as long as you don't break anything. With that said, he walked to the front door and opened it for them. Everyone got up and headed outside to see the transformation. Izuku walked away from the building when he started heading back to the group. They looked at him confused until he spoke. My transformation destroys my shirt. Can someone hold on to it for a second? Aizawa then put out his hand, so Izuku took off his shirt and handed it to him. The girls all blushed at his shirtless self. Even the stoic girl Shoko had a tint of pink on her cheeks. Some guy congratulated him on his build. Izuku then walked away to a good spot. He hadn't done this since the exam, but he did have way more power than before, so he is sure it won't tire him out. He took a deep breath and roared. The magical power swarmed him, and he felt his size increase. His classmates watched in awe at the display. His aura kept growing. It peaked, and then the aura disappeared, leaving Izuku in his black dragon form. He roared again as the dragon, and then looked down at his classmates. The first thing he heard was the redhead Kirishima yell how manly he looked, and others agreed. Izuku was about to power down when he heard a girl shriek to his left. He turned, and he saw Mei barreling towards him. She was shouting how cool he looked, and she had to make sure his costume could handle the transformation. He then chuckled in dragon form and powered down. Once he was back in his base form, Mei barreled into his chest, saying he looked cooler than she ever imagined when he told her about his transformation. Izuku just chuckled and patted her head. While this was going on, his classmates just stared. Some of the girls were jealous that Mei got to touch and hug Izuku's god-tier body. Aizawa saw the girls' faces and smirked in this scarf. Problem child, you are either the luckiest man alive or the unluckiest. It is too early to tell. Aizawa then spoke up and told them all they need to head back in because it was a class day tomorrow. When Mei tried to follow Izuku and Aizawa caught her with his scarf. Izuku growled a little at this and made Aizawa widen his eyes at Izuku. He then let her go but said she had to go back to her dorm. Mei pouted cutely at this, so Izuku chuckled at this and said they will talk tomorrow. She just smiled at him and gave him one last hug and left. The next day, everyone was in their classroom with time to spare. They were all chatting when Aizawa walked and told them to put on these gym uniforms and meet him outside. He told them they were going a Quirk appreciation test. When asked about orientation, he said it was a waste of time. Izuku Midoriya, you got first in the entrance exam. How far could you throw a softball in high school? He asked Izuku. 100 meters, Izuku responded. Do it with your Quirk now and don't hold back, but don't use our dragon form, Aizawa told him. Izuku walked up to the circle and took a deep breath. He then poured power into his right hand. He tossed the ball up and punched it while yelling, Dragon's Destruction Fist. The ball was sent flying. Everyone was in awe except Bakugo, who just scoffed. Aizawa looked at his phone and held it up for everyone to see. They were shocked. It said 11:02 meters. Izuku just smirked. He knew he still hadn't reached his full potential yet. Someone said how fun this was going to be. That made Aizawa's eye twitch, so he informed them whoever came in the last place would be kicked out of the university. This made everyone get serious. Izuku blew through every event. He got first in all but flexibility and ball throw because Uraraka got infinite. When the tests were over, the person in last was someone named Hitoshi Shinso. Izuku never saw him use a quirk, so he figured it was a mental one. When Aizawa told them it was a logical ruse, Izuku chuckled at all the reactions. He then dismissed them to spend the rest of the day as they pleased. Izuku then walked up to Shinso guy and asked him what his workout plan was. He just looked at Izuku confused, so Izuku told him from now on he was going to work out with Izuku every morning at 6 a.m. Before he could refuse, Izuku told him a hero needs to rely on more than just as their quirk. He needs to be physically strong as well. Shinso reluctantly agreed, and Izuku told him they were starting tomorrow. They met up with Ida and Uraraka, and the four of them headed back to the dorms. This is going to be a great year, Izuku thought, not knowing what was to come. The next day, after his morning workout and getting Shinso into a routine of his own, he got ready for the first official day of classes. After his shower, he was putting on his uniform when he looked at the tie He just threw it back in his closet knowing he didn't know how to tie it. He went downstairs to make himself some eggs and toast. Others were going through their morning routines. He cracked a smile at how dazed some of the girls looked before they got their coffee. Izuku finished his breakfast, washed his dishes, and headed out the door. When he took a glance around, he saw Mei was walking to school as well, while tinkering with something. Huh, she looks good in her uniform. Izuku thought to himself. He then widened his eyes at his own thoughts. Izuku breathed out and shook his head, trying to get rid of those kinds of thoughts. He started to jog towards her when he heard something. He heard a couple second years whispering about how easy of a lay the pink-haired girl could be since she was alone and looked lonely. That sparked something in Izuku. He has always hated perverts and those who treat women as objects. But this caused something dark and instinctual to claw its way out of Izuku's chest. He growled and appeared in front of the two boys. Izuku was good 4 inches taller than both. So, he looked down at them with glowing green eyes and his slit pupils. His sudden appearance made the two boys jump a little bit. Before either could do or say anything, Izuku grabbed one shoulder from each boy and squeezed tightly, making both boys cry a bit in pain. Izuku then brought out his new twisted smile that sent shivers down each of the boys' spine. You go anywhere near her, or even fantasies about her, or even bring her up in conversation again, I am going to break you. Do you both understand? Izuku asked. When neither said anything for a second, so Izuku squeezed harder until they whined again. Do you understand? Izuku growled out, releasing some of his magic power. Both started nodding their heads so fast Izuku thought they would fly off. Good. Glad we could come to an understanding. Izuku said, patting them on the shoulder he just about crushed. With that, he turned around and moved quickly to appear beside Mei and bid her a good morning. She smiled at him and said good morning to him. As he walked beside her, Izuku walked a little closer than he normally would, hoping she wouldn't question or even notice it. He was relieved when she didn't say anything, and they walked to the main building in comfortable silence. What Izuku didn't know is that Mei did notice and just decided not to say anything. She saw what happened just a minute before when he leaked his power out. She looked back and saw what he did and heard what he said. She found it strangely sweet. She knew that made him feel better, so she just let him get away with it. They split up when they had to go to their separate courses and promised to get lunch together. Izuku made it to his classroom. He put his things on at his desk and started talking to Ida and Shinso. Aizawa walked in and homeroom started. Then they had English, then literature, then modern art history. Lunch where Izuku, Mei, Ida, Shinso, and Uraraka ate together. They had math, and now finally the class everyone was looking forward to. Izuku heard him a good 20 seconds before he came into the room. Izuku gained a scowl, leaned back in his chair, crossed his arms, and waited. His actions made many looks at him, wondering why he was acting like he was. Even Bakugo looked back with his own scowl, but with confusion in his eyes. I am coming through the door like a hero, All Might proudly declared as he entered the room. Many starting whispering or looking in awe at the #1 hero, All Might. Izuku just kept his scowl and narrowed his eyes at All Might, who strutted up to the podium and scanned the room. When he saw Izuku's face, he flinched a little, but it was too quick for anyone other than Izuku to notice. All right, young ones, it is time for the class this course is named after, Hero Foundations. And today we are doing something special, Battle Trials. All Might informed the class. Battle. Both Izuku and Bakugo said at the same time with similar grins. They both then looked at each other with mild shock, but their grins grew as they looked at each other with intensity. But before you play hero, you need to look the part, All Might said as he clicked the button on a remote and cases started coming out of the wall. These are the costumes you submitted to the school before the school year. Meet me on ground beta in 20 minutes. He told them as he rushed out of the room. Everyone was walking out of the tunnel. They saw All Might waiting for them. Everyone was in their respective hero costume. Many were complimenting each other. When Uraraka noticed Shinso, she said he almost looked like an Aizawa cosplayer, which was almost true. He had a dark gray, almost black jumpsuit with black combat boots and a black belt. He also had a scarf like Aizawa's, but his scarf was black. Shinso has been getting trained by Aizawa, but he hadn't done much muscle training yet. That is why he did do so hot yesterday. He spent most of his time trying to be able to use the capture weapon. He thanked her, in turn, when he heard someone walk up behind him. He was shocked at what he saw. Izuku looked decked out in his outfit. He wanted something simple like in his other life as Acnologia, but May had been adamant that she should make his outfit. She promised he wouldn't be disappointed, and she wasn't wrong. He wore a pair of loose black combat pants that May made sure they were almost anything-proof. He also wore a pair of armored boots that covered his whole foot that was dark silver on top and was a matte dark green around the sides and bottom. He had to fight her on the shoes until she threatened that she would take his hero journals. He finally relented. He had these shin guards that started just above the ankle of his knee. The whole back of his lower leg was covered, but only about mid-shin and up was covered on the front side. He wore a dark green sash as a belt for his pants. He didn't wear a shirt, but he did have a black cloak wrapped around him. It was purposely torn up at the bottom. The cloak was made of the same material as his pants, but a little more lightweight than his pants though. All in all, a mixture of his and May's style. Before Shinso could compliment him on his costume, All Might began class. He explained that it would be a 2-on-2 indoor battle trial. Heroes versus villains. The heroes had 10 minutes to find the villains and either capture both villains or the bomb, while the villains had to defend the bomb and either beat both heroes or they had to run down the clock. They picked teams at random. The matchups were Izuku Midoriya and Hitoshi Shinso, Team A, versus Katsuki Bakugo and Tenya Ida, Team D. Shoko Todoroki and Mizo Shoji, Team B, versus Mashireo Ojuro and Toru Hagakure, Team I. Fumikage Tokoyami and Hisu Azui, Team H, versus Eijiro Kirishima and Handashiro, Team J. Denki Kaminari and Kyokujiro, Team G, versus Momo Yaoyorozu and Achiko Uraraka, Team C. Yuga Aoyama and Mina Ashido, Team E, versus Rikido Sato and Koji Koda, Team F. The heroes had 5 minutes to prepare before they could go and try to capture the villains. Izuku and Shinso started strategizing outside the building. So, what is your quirk? I think you know what mine is. Izuku asked Shinso, who at the question got a little uncomfortable. It's called brainwashing. If I ask someone a question with it activated and they respond, they lose control of themselves. I can make them do little things that don't require much effort. Shinso told Izuku, waiting for the villain comment. Wow, that is an amazing quirk, Izuku exclaimed. Think about all the people you could help with it. Any hostage situation or suicide attempt you could stop or defuse. What a great quirk for a hero, Izuku told him while Shinso looked at him in shock. You don't think it is a villain's quirk? Shinso asked him. Only if you think mine is, Izuku said. Any quirk could be used for villainy. It is the user to use the quirk the right way, Izuku informed him. Shinso just stared, then cracked a smile. Okay, so what's the plan? Izuku informed him about his and Bakugo's history and that Bakugo will be gunning for him. So Shinso should go look for Ida and keep a low profile. Inform Izuku if he finds Ida. With that, their time is up. So, they sneak into the building. They make it to the second floor when Izuku can both hear and smell Bakugo. According to both, this senses Bakugo is right around the next corner, lying in wait. He stops. Shinso whispers for him to go the other way and to go and find Ida. Shinso nods and takes off. Izuku stands up straight, crosses his arms, counts to 5, and then spoke to Bakugo. Come on out, Bakugo. It's just you and me. Bakugo comes stomping around the corner. He looks at Izuku with a critical eye. How did you know I was there, Deku? He snarls at Izuku. Izuku thinks about telling him, but then realizes that would give Bakugo the advantage of knowing he has heightened hearing and smell. So, Izuku just chuckles at him. You are as loud as ever, Bakugo. That is how I knew you were there. Bullshit, Bakugo said. There is no way you knew I was there. All right, don't believe me, Izuku said. We have a score to settle, Bakugo says. I am going to crush you and prove I'll be the next #1 hero. And show you that you will always be beneath me. You shitty nerd. Izuku smirks at this. You can try, but enough talk. Are we going to fight or what? I thought you'd never ask. Bakugo yells as he propels himself at Izuku. His right hand up ready for the large right hook he favors so much. Izuku just dodges without uncrossing his arms. The explosion happens behind him. The noise doesn't affect him like it would have if he didn't train to protect his hearing. Acnologia's memories saving him again. Bakugo turns and swung his other gauntlet at Izuku, who all he does is lift the hand aimed at that side and stops the swing with one finger. Bakugo growls and swings the other gauntlet around to hit Izuku's other side. Izuku just lifts his other arm and blocks that one as well with one finger. Before Bakugo can swear, Izuku kicks him square in the chest. With his armored boots, he knows that is going to hurt. He swears he heard at least 2 ribs crack. Bakugo is trying to get off the ground, having a coughing fit. He is staring daggers at Izuku. If looks could kill, Izuku would be dead 10 times over now. Izuku just smirks at him, brings up a hand to taunt him over. Bakugo, enraged, screams and rushes in. He propels himself forward faster than before. He launches a bigger explosion than before, but Izuku just tanks it, while he throws a punch and hit the spot he already kicked. He cracked a few more ribs, and the pain rocks Bakugo while he is still midair. Izuku then grabs his ankle and slams Bakugo down on the ground. The force of the slam makes Bakugo bounce a bit. Izuku, still with a tight grip on Bakugo's ankle, brings him back up and slams him down again. He does it about 5 more times until he tosses Bakugo down the hall. Bakugo ragdolls until he stops 20 feet down. He starts struggling to get back up. He is breathing heavily and is trying to stand. Izuku just looks at this pathetic display. I told you this wouldn't be easy. Is the message beginning to sink in yet? Or am I going to have to kill you? Izuku asks Bakugo, who is still struggling to stand. Just then his right gauntlet flashed. Bakugo saw it and started laughing. This is the end, Deku. Now that my gauntlet is full, you won't win. He brings up the gauntlet and aims it at Izuku. He then grabbed the pin. Right before he pulls it, All Might cut in. Don't, young Bakugo, you'll kill him. All Might yells over the mic. He won't die if he dodges, Bakugo said with a manic grin. Young Bakugo dash. He was cut off by Izuku. Mind your own business, All Might. This is between him and me. Bakugo's smile widened. Here it comes, Deku. He pulls the pin and a wave of explosions head toward Izuku. I can't eat it because it isn't the quirk now, just stored up fluid. Izuku thought. I can tank it. As he stands there motionless, he was engulfed in the explosion. With all the smoke, no one could see what happened to him. All Might warned Bakugo if he used that kind of attack again, he would be disqualified. Before Bakugo could complain, he heard clapping. He whipped around and saw Izuku hadn't moved an inch and didn't look any different. You thought you had me beaten, didn't you? Well, no worries, I'm fine, and we can continue. Before Bakugo could reply to Izuku, Izuku beat him to the punch. 0. Izuku said and launched a blast from his finger that pierced all the way through left Bakugo's shoulder. Bakugo yelled out in pain as he grabbed the attacked shoulder. That was to make sure you couldn't use the other grenade, Izuku said with his new creepy smile. He then launched a few more zeros, hitting Bakugo in several places. Bakugo was in so much pain he couldn't move. He was sprawled on the ground and was groaning. Izuku started walking towards him. How does it feel, Bakugo? He asked Bakugo, who was looking at him now. How does it feel to be weak, powerless, to not be able to fight back? Izuku was getting angrier each passing second, and Bakugo's eyes just widened, realizing what this was about. He then started to feel something he hadn't felt since he was a small child. Fear. Izuku was at his side, covered his hand in power. I want you to remember something, Bakugo. You are completely at my mercy. I want you to remember that this quirkless reject crushed you without any chance of you obtaining victory. With that said, Izuku kicked Bakugo in the head, knocking him out. He then tied him up. He called Shinso on his mic and asked for his status. He said he had found Ida. Izuku told him to brainwash Ida and get the bomb. 15 seconds later, All Might announced that the hero team had won. Izuku gave Bakugo one last look, then walked out the building, not looking back. Once they got back to the communications room, everyone was looking at Izuku with a bit different, not fear yet, but unease would be the right word. All Might asked the class who the MVP was. Momo raised her hand and said it was Ida for trying to protect the bomb and preparing for them. That was only because he didn't know Shinso's quirk that he lost. She started going into more detail on why the others weren't MVP when All Might stopped her and said she was completely right. He then started up the next trial. Izuku looked at Momo with a critical eye. So she is smart, rich, and beautiful. She is the whole package. There was some sarcasm in Izuku's second thought, but he believed his assessment. He continued to observe her. That was until he felt an elbow his side. He turned his head to his left, and Shinso was standing there holding his elbow in some obvious pain. Izuku just raised an eyebrow at this. Shinso then looked at him. "Stop staring at the poor girl, can't you tell she is uncomfortable?" Shinso told him. Izuku looked at him confused until he turned and looked at her again. She had a large blush and was trying not to look in Izuku's direction. "Oh my God, why is he staring? Is there something on my face?" "No, there isn't, because no one else is looking at me like that. It feels like a predator looking at prey. Why is that a little bit of a turn on?" "No, stop thinking of such things." These were Momo's thoughts now. Izuku just saw her physical reaction and just chuckled and stopped paying attention to her and watched the rest of the battle trials. After the class was over, All Might sprinted away, and Izuku knew it was because his time is almost up. "We are opposites, All Might. You keep getting weaker and weaker, and my strength just keeps increasing. I'll be stronger than you ever were as well," Izuku thought with a smirk. With hero training done, classes were over for the day. Everyone was back in the classroom packing up. That is when he got the question he was waiting for. "Hey man, why did you do that to Bakugo? I mean, I know he is a little angry and loud, but he didn't deserve that," said the red-headed Kirishima. Izuku just slowly turned. "Let me ask you this. Do I have a strong quirk?" Izuku asked him. At this point, everyone was watching with curious eyes and listening. "Yeah, of course you do." "Does Bakugo have a strong quirk?" Izuku asked, cutting him off. "Well, yeah, I mean..." Again, he was cut off by Izuku. "Well, Bakugo has been told that all his life. He has always been told how great he is and what a great hero he will become. Because of that, he gained a superiority complex that was only matched by his inferiority complex. He can't stand it when others are better than him, but he perceives himself above others." Izuku told them all a little about Bakugo. Some widened their eyes, others just kept looking on, knowing there was a little more to this story. "You see, Bakugo has always gotten praise and belittled anyone he deemed lower than him. Someone like me," Izuku said, which confused everyone. Izuku had such a strong quirk. How could Bakugo belittle him over that strong of a quirk? Many of you are confused, I can tell. So let me explain something. Bakugo and I used to be best friends as children. He was still brash back then, but at least he didn't try to actively harm me. He got his quirk when he was supposed to, and that was when the praise started. And I was a late bloomer. So late, in fact, that I was deemed quirkless, and Bakugo started making me his personal punching bag. This shocked others in the room. They knew Bakugo was brash, but a bully as well. Even Kirishima gained a slight somber look. Don't get me wrong, he wasn't the only one, but he is the only one that did it almost every day. This went on for years, about 13 years in fact. No one helped me, none of my teachers, no stranger in the street. The second they heard the word quirkless, it was like I was invisible. It wasn't until 1 year ago that I got my quirk, and I worked my ass off to strengthen both my body and quirk to be able to get here. Izuku told them his story. Many were shocked by how powerful he was with only a year of his quirk under his belt. Many now looked at him with respect in their eyes, and the unease from his fight with Bakugo was gone once they knew the reason he attacked Bakugo so mercilessly. What no one in the 1A classroom is that they had 3 eavesdroppers. The first was Aizawa, who was under the podium. He decided to have word with Bakugo later, and let him know any king of harassment is means for instant expulsion. The second was Bakugo, who was outside the door. He was about to come in to get his things when he heard Kirishima's question. He decided to stay put and listen. What he heard at the beginning pissed him off, but he couldn't help but begrudgingly agree with Izuku's story. He was a dick, he knew that, but hearing his victim recant his life made Bakugo feel something he never felt before: guilt. The last eavesdropper was Nizu, who was sitting in his office and watching through the cameras. He knew Izuku was a diamond in the rough, and he was so glad that Izuku still wanted to be a hero. Because if he was a villain, Nizu shuddered at the thought. He had to make sure that Izuku would never turn down that path. Now that he knows Izuku's history, he is going to keep an eye out for him and help him. He knows Izuku has the highest potential. Even more potential than All Might or his successor Mirio. More potential than Japan's symbol of evil, all for one. No, Izuku Midoriya may have the potential of them. Nizu thought as he glances back to his hidden safe, with the only thing in it is one file. The file with a large 7 on it, with an immaculate crown above it. He just hopes Izuku doesn't lose himself along the way. The class was getting on a bus to head to an off-campus location for rescue training. Ida was telling them to get on in a specific order. Izuku didn't know what it was. He wasn't paying attention. His thoughts were on yesterday's events. At the beginning of the day, Bakugo was acting differently. He was quieter and more reserved. Izuku wasn't going to question it. When class started, they all voted on who the class rep should be. For some reason, a lot of the class voted for Izuku, and the second most voted was Momo. After the winner was announced, Izuku stood and said his first act as president was to make Ida president. This shocked the class and asked why he did it. Izuku just said he didn't want to deal with the responsibility. He said Ida would make a great president, and with Momo backing him up, they would make a great team. The main thing Izuku was thinking about was what happened at lunch. The alarms suddenly went off. Everyone started panicking. Izuku was just observing this, and when he looked out the window, he saw it was just the reporters, who had been surrounding the campus since they found out All Might was teaching at UA. When Izuku saw this, he decided to do something about it. He roared at the top of his lungs to be heard over the panicking. This made everyone stop and look at him in awe. He then informed them that it was just the reporters, and if this was the next generation of heroes, he can guarantee that at least half of them would die in the field. Having said his piece, he grabbed Mei's hand and ushered her and his friends out of the cafeteria. They had been on the buses and traveling for about 5 minutes when someone said his name and brought him out of his thoughts. Izuku shook his and turned to who had said his name. It was Tsu, who was sitting next to him. Izuku, I just wanted to ask what exactly is your quirk, because you don't just transform into a dragon, like Ryukyu, but you do those energy attacks as well, and I just wanted to ask is how you use those. Her question caused everyone on the buses either look at him or in Aizawa's case start paying attention to the conversation. Yeah, it is kind of hard to explain. You see, my quirk makes me somewhat immune to quirks. That statement alone made everyone give their undivided attention to him. You see, let's just say a fire quirk user like Endeavor would launch a fire blast at me. You see, I would have two options in that scenario. I could either absorb the quirk output by eating the flames, or I could just tank the hit and be immune to the fire since it was caused by a quirk. Izuku explained to his audience. Many looked at him shocked. He had a quirk that could negate works or absorb the attacks. That had to be one of the strongest quirks they have ever heard. Aizawa grinned. A problem child indeed, he thought. It was at that moment that Aizawa saw where they were and informed the class that they were arriving at their destination. The bus pulled up to a huge facility. They all got off and headed inside. When they got to the landing near the stairs, they were introduced to the rescue hero 13. Aizawa and 13 have a quick conversation where 13 holds up 3 fingers. Izuku knows that means All Might ran out of time before their class. Izuku scoffed at that. Both Aizawa and 13 look at him because of that. Then 13 went on a spiel about how dangerous quirks can be. That is when Izuku picked up multiple scents around the facility. They were not alone. Right before he could say something, he saw a black portal appear down in the main area. Aizawa, we are not alone, Izuku informed him. Aizawa followed his eyes and saw the portal and villains pour out of it. 3 of them caught Izuku and his attention. The portal maker, who looked to be made completely of black smoke, a lanky guy with pale skin, bluish-white hair, and hands covering his body, and finally a huge monstrosity of a creature that looked to as big as All Might and had a weird beak and exposed brain. Aizawa cursed and informed them to get back to the bus. He then dove down the stairs to the plaza to fight the villains and give them time to escape. When the class, excluding Izuku, turned to leave, they were then confronted by the portal guy. He informed of his name, Kurogiri, and he told them he could not allow them to escape. Bakugo and Kirishima both launched themselves at the smoky figure. He caught them both in portals and started taking the other students in them as well. Izuku quickly launched a Zero at the portal man. He was unprepared for such an attack and dodged instead of using a portal. Izuku looked around him and saw who was still there. There was 13, Ida, Shoji, Uraraka, Zero, Mina, and Sato. Before Izuku could try to say his plan, 13 tried to use her quirk black hole on Kurogiri. He just used a portal on the quirk and opened it behind 13, so he took himself out. Damn it! Izuku cursed as he saw 13 get taken out. He told Mina and Uraraka to look after her. Izuku was trying to come up with a plan. He knew he would be needed to help Aizawa. So, the next best option for someone to get help would be Ida. He got his fighting force group together and informed them of his plan. They put it into action. He told Ida to get ready to sprint out the door the second he blew it up. He told the rest of the guys they were all distractions to give Ida the chance to escape. They began to distract Kurogiri and trying to make sure he would move out of the way of the door. Finally, Shoji got close enough to tackle him, giving Izuku the time he needed. Dragon's Roar. Izuku bellowed out as he shot his blast at the door. It obliterated the door at that moment. Ida shot forward and made it through the door in about 5 seconds and was off to get the teachers. It was after that Kurogiri escaped from Shoji's hold and teleported away. Izuku looked back down at the plaza and saw Aizawa was holding his own against the villains. He also saw Kurogiri appear beside the hands guy. He then looked back and informed his classmates he was going to help Aizawa. He told the guys to defend the girls if any villains try to get up the stairs. With that said, Izuku jumped down the stairs barreling towards some villains. Aizawa hadn't been defeated yet. Izuku landed in front of a large man with a mutation quirk that made him look like a lizard man. Before the man could react, Dragon's Destruction Fist. Izuku yelled as he punched the guy in the face as he was sent flying. Midoriya, what are you doing? I told you to escape. Aizawa yelled at Izuku as Izuku took down another villain with an armored kick. Ida got out and is going for help, and it looks like you need a hand, Izuku informed him. TCH, fine, just don't get in over your head, Aizawa replied, as he took out another grunt. Oh, would you look at this, another child trying to play hero, the handman said. Tomura Shigaraki, that is the one who came up with the plan to get the student to escape and blew open the doors, Kurogiri told the now named Shigaraki. Really now? So he must be close to a boss level. At this early, that is quite scary, Shigaraki commented as he watched Izuku. We need to break All Might's spirit when he gets here, and what better to do that than to kill some of his students, Shigaraki said as he turned to the monster. Inoimu, kill the kid, Shigaraki ordered the monstrosity. The monster burst forward, faster than many could see as it rushed at Izuku. His instincts were screaming at him. He turned just in time to be punched in the face. He went sent flying into the stairs and crashed into them and broke the stairs quite a bit. Izuku laid there for a second trying to get his bearings. The force of the punch was caused by a strength quirk, so Izuku to no damage from the hit, but the force was so great it sent him flying. It was the landing that caused a little bit of damage on his back, and he hit his head, dazing him. Not enough to cause a problem, just enough for Izuku to know it was there. Aizawa was shocked by the sight. He hasn't seen Izuku be sent flying before, so it made him a bit more nervous around the monster. He turned to Shigaraki and rushed him. They came to blows. Shigaraki went the eyes, and when Aizawa dodged the hand, Shigaraki grabbed Aizawa's elbow with his other hand. Instantly, Aizawa felt a shooting pain in his elbow. He broke the grip Shigaraki had on him and jumped back. He looked at his right elbow and saw some of it was disintegrated. He could see the muscle wrapped around his elbow. He looked back at Shigaraki and said, "So you disintegrate anything you touch with all 5 fingers." "Haha, you got it in one eraser head. I knew you were cool," Shigaraki replied. "But remember, you aren't just fighting me, Nomo," Shigaraki called the monster. Before Aizawa could react, he was struck by the creature, which sent him flying. Before he could even get his bearings, the creature appeared again, grabbing Aizawa's leg and slamming him on the ground repeatedly. After a few of those, it just planted Aizawa on the ground and held him there. "I must admit you are pretty cool, Eraser, but let's see how cool you are when you watch your students die." Shigaraki then took off towards where Tsu and Shinso, who were hiding in the water. His hand was an inch from Tsu's face when another hand grabbed Shigaraki's arm. Shigaraki's eyes widened when he turned to see who grabbed his arm. He saw it was Izuku, whose eyes were glowing and giving off a menacing aura. "Don't you touch them," Izuku said as he brought his other hand up and broke Shigaraki's hand. Shigaraki screamed in pain as Izuku swiftly kicked him away from his classmates. He then turned to them and said to get to the entrance. It was then that Shigaraki ordered the Nomu to kill Izuku. Izuku turned in time to catch the punch. He was now prepared for the Noma's output. Izuku brought up his other hand, covered it in power, and used a destruction fist right to the Noma's face. It didn't even flinch. "Ha! You didn't think super strength was Noma's only quirk, did you?" No, he also had shock absorption. Shigaraki taunted Izuku as he cradled his hand. Shock absorption, huh? I need him to get away from Tsu and Shinso, Izuku thought. He then moved away to the middle of the plaza. I'm over here. Come and get me, he told the Nomo, which turned to sprinted towards Izuku. They started clashing, meeting each other fist for fist. They were meeting each other equally. Izuku would be overpowering the monster if its goddamn shock absorption didn't keep canceling about half of his strength with each strike. It was then that a sonic boom happened. That stopped everything even the Nomu stopped at and looked behind Izuku. So he turned as well. Standing there at the top of the stairs was All Might, and he wasn't smiling. He rushed down, and every villain about to stand up was knocked back now. He reached Aizawa, who was barely conscious, and took him, Tsu, and Shinso up the stairs. After a few words with them, he appeared just behind Izuku. Young Midoriya, please head upstairs with Dash. He was then interrupted by Izuku. No way in hell am I stopping my fight, just because you are here. I finally found something that can match me blow for blow, and I am not giving that up. Izuku yelled at him. How about you go save the other students? They all got warped to different places around the USJ, and I can guarantee they are fighting for their lives. So how about you be a proper hero and save them? This wouldn't be the first time you left me alone, so go. Izuku ranted at him. Izuku's blatant disrespect and genuine hatred for All Might caught Shigaraki off guard. Maybe he isn't just another NPC, he may have a brain after all, Shigaraki thought. Before All Might could respond, Izuku turned around and used another destruction fist on the beast. He then yelled, just fucking go, as they started fighting the Nomu again. All Might reluctantly left to go find the other students. It took 2 minutes, and he found all the missing students and got them back to the top of the stairs. All of them started watching Izuku fight the monster. He had a manic grin the entire time. Yes, more, give me more. Finally, something I can call all out against. Izuku roared as they battled the Nomu. He jumped back a few steps, stared at the Nomu who just looked at him with its dead eyes. Dragon's wing attack, Izuku called out. The slashes he made took off the creature's arms. Izuku just laughed at the creature, and Tamura looked furious until it started to regenerate. He then informed Izuku that it had another quirk called hyper-regeneration. The thing has 4 goddamn quirks. Izuku raged in his head. Okay, every quirk has a weakness. What is this one's regen? Then Izuku saw at the exposed brain. If it takes damage there, would probably slow down or die. So let's aim for that. Let's try the new attack. Izuku thought as he brought his right hand up. He cut his palm with his left hand. He then pointed his bleeding hand at the Nomu. Grand Ray Zero. Izuku shouts as he fires a Zero that is 5 times the size of the ones he normally uses. It barreled toward the creature as it brought its arms up in a cross guard. The blast hits the monster, causing a huge explosion. When the dust died down, the monster was visible. When the weaker of all people saw the aftermath, they threw up. The monster was missing the upper half of its body. It was just waist and legs now. It collapsed on the ground. It wasn't regenerating. Looks like your All Might killer was defeated. Don't get me wrong, I didn't do this to help All Might, it was only to get a good fight. And I have to say it was a decent one. You cheated. You are a cheater, Tamura growled out as he scratched his neck. No, you are wrong. I am no cheater. I am a secret boss that you don't have the EXP to fight yet. That got Tamura to stop scratching and look at Izuku. Even if you are 1 level lower than the recommended, you will be crushed by me, Izuku told him. Oh, I see my party level was too low. Looks like I'll have to grind to get that up. Tamura replied calmly. Can I have the name of the secret boss? He asked Izuku. Izuku Midoriya, but I don't have a hero name yet. You can call me that when I get one. Izuku Midoriya, huh? Well, I can't wait for until Dash. He was cut off by the sound of gunshots. Tamura was shot 3 times before Kurogiri could save him and teleport themselves away. Izuku looked up the stairs and saw the other teachers were there. So, he started walking up the stairs with his hands in his pockets. The students were trying to tell the teachers what happened when Izuku reached the top. When he reached the top, all the students turned to him and started clapping and cheering, saying how he saved them all. He just looked at them and nodded. What caught his attention was the way Nizu was looking at him, like a puzzle he was trying to solve. Nizu asked Izuku was fine after he killed the monster. Izuku met Nizu's eyes and told them that the creature was already dead. He could smell the death wafting off the creature, and it was just a puppet for the villains to use. Nizu nodded at this and thanked him for protecting the students. Izuku just nodded and said it's what a hero should do. He then walked out with Nizu to get himself checked out and make a statement with the police. Tamura fell into the bar after Kurojiri teleported them away. I see things didn't go as planned," someone talking through a TV said. "No, they didn't, sensei," was Tamura's reply. "So, All Might beat the Nomu?" asked the man. "No, it was a kid. He even yelled at All Might to stay out of his fight. It seemed he even hated All Might." "Oh, and who was this child that beat the Nomu?" "It was a kid named Izuku Midoriya." "Izuku Midoriya? Are you sure?" the man asked, has something akin to genuine wonder and glee bled into his voice. "Yes, I'm sure he told me himself. He could even keep up with the Nomu physically and destroyed the top half of the Nomu with a blast from his hand," Tamura told the man. "It is all right. This is just a small setback. You can heal and plan for the future. I'll speak to you soon," the man said before the TV turned off. "You are growing powerful, Izuku. I couldn't be prouder," the man said with a chuckle. "I can't wait to see you in action at the sports festival. You really are my son," the man said with a smile. The class got back to their dorms about 2 hours after the heroes showed up because of the police questioning them. They spent the longest with Izuku, and after 45 minutes he started to get angry and releasing his power. Nizu then appeared from nowhere and told the police his students needed their rest. When the police left, he informed Class 1A that school would be canceled tomorrow so they could recuperate and relax. He also informed them they will deliver meals for them that night. Many sighed at that and thanked him. Now that they were back in the dorms, many just trudged to the couches and collapsed on them. Others sat on the floor in front of them. Bakugo and Shoko both excused themselves to go to their rooms. Before anyone could say anything, something came barreling through the front door and tried to tackle Izuku. Many jumped into battle stances until they saw it was Mei clinging to Izuku. He had heard her coming, so he braced himself. That was when they heard sniffling, and they all noticed that she was crying, burying her head into Izuku's neck. Izuku just gently wrapped his arms around her and held her as she clung to him and cried. He then looked at the rest of the class, nodded his head, turned around, and started to head up to his room. The rest of the class looked after him. Many had somber faces at seeing Mei cry. Many had seen her around Izuku the past week and knew she was always so upbeat. They knew she must have been terrified about what happened. Many of the girls looked after them. Many felt guilty that they felt a little jealous seeing Izuku hold her. Once Izuku got into his room, he walked over to his bed and sat down. Mei was still hanging to his front like a koala. He then slowly pried her off him and set her in his lap. She was still facing him though, and her face was still buried in his neck. He just rubbed her back and whispered into her ear that he was all right, and everything was fine. After 10 minutes, she finally lifted her head from the crook of his neck and finally looked at him in the eye. Izuku saw a stray tear and brought up a hand to wipe it away with his thumb as he cupped her face. She leaned into the touch and sighed. Then Izuku felt like he was struck by lightning. He felt something bubble up and surge from his heart. It covered his whole body, and it made him feel warm and calm. He looked at her, and she just looked so beautiful. She just looked at him with half-lidded eyes. He could just see her wonderful golden crosshair eyes. He slowly pulled forward and kissed her. She froze for one moment. Then she kissed him back, and after another moment melted into the kiss. Her lips tasted of chocolate, which he knew she loved with a passion almost as much as her baby's. Izuku had often thought how kissable her lips were, and now he was finally doing it, and it felt amazing. He wrapped his arms around her waist tightly, as if he let go, she would disappear. She then wrapped her arms around his neck tightly, making it look like she had read his mind. They kissed for a minute longer, but to Izuku it felt like an hour. Then they had to break due to lack of oxygen. They breathed deeply, looking into each other's eyes. They then smiled and put their foreheads against each other. "Well, that was nice," Izuku said, still reeling that he had actually kissed her. "Yeah, I wouldn't mind doing that more," she told him, trying to have her mind play catch-up. "Really? You would want to do more of that?" Izuku asked, hoping she would say yes. "Well, yeah, I would like to do that more. It was actually connected to something I wanted to talk to you about." "Oh, and what did you want to talk about?" he asked as he thought about what she wanted. "Well, I have been feeling differently around you lately. Like every time I saw you, I just got extremely happy, and I felt this pull on my chest, and I didn't know what it meant. She informed him of her problem. Izuku cracked a big smile and started laughing loudly like he'd just heard the best joke ever. She pouted cutely at him and asked what was so funny. Izuku finally stopped laughing and was just chuckling as he tried to say something. What you were feeling, hee hee, is what normal people call love. Oh, so I love you. She asked him as she tried to understand what he just told her. Well, I don't know if you are fully in love with me yet, but you do have feelings for me, he told her. And how do you know that? I know that because I feel the same towards you, he informed her. Oh, okay. So what do we do about it? She asked him. Well, we could enter into a relationship. All right, and how do we do that? She asked. Well, we would just kind of do what we have been doing but more, he told her. She just tilted her head like a confused puppy. He just wanted to kiss her again, but he could wait until she knew what that meant. That means we would do everything we do now, like to spend time together, get meals together, watch movies together, and the such. The more would be we would be more affectionate with each other. Like, hold hands, cuddle during the movies, kiss like we were just doing, and more things that we will do down the line that I can explain to you now, or you can just look up later. Izuku to the slowly understanding Mei. So, we would be like one of those couples I have seen so much, she said with a look of understanding in her eyes. Izuku just nodded. Okay, so let's do that, let's be a couple. Izuku just smiled, cupped her face with both hands, and kissed her again. She melted into the kiss. They then fell over onto his bed, and were still kissing. He shifted so he could wrap his arms around her. Before they could take it farther, there was a knock on Izuku's door. Izuku growled a little at that, but Mei just smiled at him and told him he should answer it. He gave her one last quick kiss and stood up to get the door. When he opened the door, it was Ida standing there waiting patiently. Me. Izuku, I came to tell you that dinner is here, Ida informed Izuku. When he saw Mei sitting on Izuku's bed, you are welcome to join us as well, Mei, he told her as well. All right, we'll be right down, Izuku said. Ida just responded with one quick nod, turned, and left. Izuku then closed the door and walked back over to Mei. Well, looks like we are going to have our first meal as a couple, Izuku told her. Great, because I haven't eaten since yesterday. I've been too busy working on my babies. I was Ward Dash. She started to explain but was cut off by Izuku, who just kissed her again. She pouted once he broke the kiss. That's cheating, she told him as he just chuckled. All is fair in love and war, he told her. He then grabbed her hand and led her downstairs. They saw that everyone was down there eating already, so they got them food themselves and sat with everybody else. It was a quiet and somber affair until Kaminari cracked a terrible joke that got him shocked by Jiro. That got some people to chuckle, and they all started to loosen up and start having some fun. When everyone was basically done eating, Bakugo stood up abruptly and walked over to Izuku. He looked at him in the eye. Meet me outside in 10 minutes, he told Izuku not unkindly. He then walked away. Izuku watched after him for a second. When he turned back around, everyone was looking at him with a varying degree of emotions. Mei had the most worrying look. He just gave him a small smile and patted her hand. He told the others that everything will be fine. 10 minutes later, he walked outside, finding Bakugo leaning against the tree about 20 feet from the front entrance waiting for him. He looked up and met Izuku's eyes. He then waved Izuku over. Izuku walked right up to him. They were only a meter or so apart now, and the entire time, they never broke eye contact. After a minute of staring, Bakugo finally broke eye contact with a huff. Listen, Izuku, I am only going to say this once. I am sorry about how I treated you. I won't make excuses and I can't change the past, but I wanted to apologize and get it out there. I don't expect you to forgive me. Lord knows I don't deserve it. I just wanted to say it. Aizawa is making me see hound dog for anger management. I am trying to be better. I just thought I'd let you know. He then looked Izuku in the eye to see his reaction. To say Izuku was mind-fucked would be an understatement. He never thought in a million years Bakugo would apologize, and with such sincerity. It made him feel a multitude of feels he didn't want to deal with. Finally, he just exhales and meets Bakugo's eyes. I don't think I am ready to forgive you yet. He pauses as he sees Bakugo's jaw clench. But that doesn't mean we can't start rebuilding a bridge I thought was burned and lost to time. He finished as he stuck his hand out. Bakugo looked at his hand like he didn't believe it was there. He then met Izuku's eyes again and took this hand in a tight handshake. Bakugo smirked and said, "You got it, Izuku. Yeah, you can stick with Deku. It seems weird when you say my first name." Yeah, felt weird too. They both chuckle at that. When they broke the handshake, Bakugo was the first to turn and leave and head back into the dorm. Izuku stood outside for a moment longer looking at the stars. He was finally getting his first friend back. The next morning, Izuku's phone ringing woke him up. He groggily reached for it and answered. "Hello." Mr. Midoriya, it's good that I caught you," the voice over the phone said. "Who is this and why are you calling me at?" He looked at his clock. 6:30 in the morning? "It is Dean Nizu, and I wanted to get a hold of you before you got busy on your day off. I would like to meet with you in the next half hour if that is all right. Don't worry about breakfast, I already have something prepared. See you then." He finished as he hung up on Izuku. Izuku just groaned and fell back on his bed. It was then when he noticed he wasn't alone. Mei then appeared from under the covers, looking at him with sleepy eyes. She spent the night because she didn't want to be apart from him. "You have to leave?" she asked him. "You gotta go talk to Nizu. You can stay here though. You need to catch up on your sleep anyways. I'll come to get you when I'm done," he told her as he gave her a quick kiss on the lips. He then got up and put on a shirt, shorts, and shoes and was out the door. He jogged to the main building. He then wandered the halls looking for Nizu's office. He found it with 5 minutes to spare. He heard typing when he reached the door. Before he could knock, he heard Nizu call him in. He walked into the office, and what he saw was a large, spacious room with a desk and chair that Nizu was currently occupying. To the left side, there was a pair of couches facing each other, where he saw a tea set and an assortment of breakfast foods. "Just take a seat and start on the food. You must be hungry," Nizu told him as he was still typing away at his keyboard. Izuku took his advice and sat down and started wolfing down the food. He was about halfway through eating when Nizu hopped on the other couch. "Would you like some tea?" Nizu asked him. Izuku had his mouth full, so he just nodded. They sat in relative silence as the tea brewed, and Izuku kept eating. By the time the tea was done, Izuku had finished eating. Nizu offered him a cup, and Izuku gratefully accepted it. They both again sat in silence as they both enjoyed their tea. Izuku was the one to finally break the silence. "I'm assuming that you didn't wake me up at 6:30 for just tea." "Haha. You would be correct, Mr. Midoriya. You see, you have intrigued me since the entrance exam, and I just wanted to speak with you to learn more about you," was Nizu's reply. "Oh, and why do you want to learn more about me?" Izuku said with slightly narrowed eyes and poorly hidden suspicion. "Don't worry, I know plenty about you from your file. There are just things it doesn't have that I would like to know. Don't worry, nothing you say will leave this room unless you give the okay. I am many things, but I am a man of my word," Nizu informed him. "Okay, what do you want to know?" Izuku asked. "First things first, tell me about yourself, give me your origin story, so to say, and leave nothing out. I would like to know everything," Nizu requested of him. "All right, I guess." So, Izuku told him about his life from his earliest memories to the entrance exam. The only thing he left out is what happened between his jump and when he woke up. To say Nizu was shocked at what he learned. The boy sitting in front of him went through so much to only rise above and beat the odds. He also made a mental note to have a particularly fun conversation with All Might sometime soon. He decided right there to help this young man reach his potential. Last thing I was to discuss. On the written test for the entrance exams, you scored a perfect, which has never been done before. So, it leads me to this question. For this first week of school, have the academics challenged you at all? Nizu asked him. "No, not really," was Izuku's intelligent reply. "That settles it then. I am going to make you my personal student," Nizu told him. "What, really?" "Yes, you obviously have a high level of intelligence that could even let me have a challenge, and I would regret not cultivating it when I had the chance. Now, what do you say?" Nizu prompted. "Well, I would say sure. I'll do it," said Izuku. "Wonderful. Now we will have to go over specifics later, but instead of the work your teachers will assign, you will to the work I will give you. Does that sound acceptable?" "Yeah, it does." "Great. Now, is there a field you have a particular interest in? It would be my duty as your teacher to help you expand in that chosen field." "Yes. Actually, could we add quirk analysis as part of my curriculum?" Izuku informed him. Quirk analysis, you say? Do you already do it? I already do it. Yeah, I actually have 13 journals full of my analyses, Izuku told him. I actually have my latest on me if you would like to take a look. Nizu agreed in an instant. He then spent the next 10 minutes scanning through the journal. When he was done, to say he was impressed would be an understatement. This was better work than he has seen most professionals do. This made him giddy about teaching this boy. He was sure to not disappoint. One last thing. Would you like to have a new sparring partner? Nizu asked him when they were finishing up. Izuku looked at him confused but nodded his head. Well, there is a senior here. I am going off a 3-year course like their high school, while I know Japan does 4 years for college, named Mirio Togata, who just went through a quirk evolution and has more power than anybody can handle in a fight. You would make a perfect partner for him, and he could give you more experience with your quirk and how to handle combat. Nizu explained to Izuku. Izuku thought about this. If even with Acnologia's memories, he didn't have much combat experience, especially when at a certain point Acnologia just stopped fighting altogether and just destroyed everything in sight. So he told Nizu he wouldn't. Nizu said excellent and told Izuku he could meet him the next day after classes were done at Gym Gamma. He also informed Izuku that this was one of UA's big 3. Izuku widened his eyes at this, but still thanked him for the help and left. It was then that Nizu relaxed. He felt Izuku's aura yesterday, but not as long as this, and now he knew for sure. Izuku had the aura of an apex predator. Nothing stood above him on the food chain. And after hearing his story, he now knows completely that he did have the potential to become one of them. Izuku Midoriya would be a king. What kind of king it is too early to tell, but Nizu would be damned if he let Izuku fall completely into darkness. Nizu knew Izuku stopped being fully pure at a young age from the abuse. He also knew Izuku's soul darkened even more because of his suicide attempted. But he will do everything in his power to make sure he doesn't darken much more. Izuku went back to the dorms. By this time, most of the class was up and about. Before they could ask him questions, Izuku raced upstairs and went into his room and found Mei still sleeping. He went over and woke her up and let her know they were getting food. She didn't want to walk, so Izuku had to carry her piggyback style. They got downstairs, and many looked at him surprised because they thought Mei had gone back to her dorm. Many guys gave Izuku a thumbs up. He just rolled his eyes and set a half-asleep Mei in a chair. At this moment, Aizawa walked out of his room wrapped in a few bandages and cast on his arm, and saw Izuku, set Mei down, and looked back at Izuku. What did I say about breaking the bed so early in the semester? Aizawa deadpanned at Izuku, who just groaned loudly and slammed his head on the table. Many laughed at both the statement and the reaction. Izuku denied that they went that far, but this made Kaminari bring up he said that far. Then he asked how far they went. Mei then mumbled something about kissing. Izuku just rubbed his temples, not wanting to deal with it. Everyone calmed down after that, and everyone ate except Izuku, who had eaten with Nizu. The next day school, during homeroom, Aizawa brought up that they had 2 weeks before the sports festival and that all heroic class times would now be an open hour for them to prepare for it. The rest of the day was normal except at the very end of the day, when Izuku opened the door to leave so he could meet up with his new sparring partner. There was a sea of people standing there waiting for them. Now what can we do for you? Izuku asked with a small grin, knowing would creep them out a little bit. Many were just mumbling and looking at Izuku. They aren't going to respond, Deku, Bakugo stated calmly as he walked up beside Izuku. They are here to check out the class that survived the villain attack. Get out of the way, extras, some of us got places to be, Bakugo told the crowd. Ida then tried to reprimand Bakugo, who just scoffed. So, this is the illustrious Class 1A. I can't say I am impressed with how arrogant you all are, said a blonde guy with a bowl haircut as he pushed himself in front of the crowd. He may have called their class arrogant, but that smile on his face had smug written all over it. I just wanted to let you all know that Class B is declaring war on you. We will crush you and prove we would have handled the attack better, the blonde guy said arrogantly, and a smug smile on his face. Before anyone could react, Izuku struck forward and grabbed the guy around the neck and lifted him off the floor. This caught many by surprise, seeing Izuku do something so drastic. The blonde guy gripped Izuku's hand, and everyone could tell he was trying to do something, but it wasn't working. Oh, are you trying to use your quirk? Izuku asked the blonde guy, who was now panicking, with a creepy grin spreading across Izuku's face. Who said I need a strength quirk to hold you off the ground? Izuku said with a full-blown smile that showed off his elongated canines. The blonde guy was really panicking now. He was trying punch Izuku's arm or kick his body, but nothing he did worked. If you are the best in Class B, I will be sadly disappointed by the competition. Izuku taunted him. I am guessing your quirk is a copying quirk, so right now you are powerless, and I could crush your neck here and now. Izuku told him. But that isn't something a hero would do. So goodbye for now. Izuku said as he threw the blonde guy back at the crowd. He flew through the crowd and hit the window on the other side of the hall. Izuku just smirked at the rest of the crowd who slowly turned back to look at him. Now get out of my way, Izuku said, and the crowd parted for him like the Red Sea. His class just looked after Izuku, wondering why he acted so differently right there. Bakugo just walked up to the blonde guy. Deku hates when people lord themselves over others. You just did that. That is why he went after you as he did. He spent his childhood full of abuse. Seeing the same smugness here made him snap. Remember that next time you try something. Having said his piece, Bakugo turned and walked away. His classmates smiled at Bakugo, knowing he was trying to be better. Izuku had changed to his gym uniform and was heading to Gym Gamma, still wrapping his head around what he had just done. For the last month or so since he had transformed for the first time, anything that really annoyed him in the past that he let go, he now had to do something about it. Most of the time violence was involved. He believes that more of Acnologia's personality is showing through, and their merger was almost fully complete now. He just hoped that nothing would come of it though, or he would be able to deal with it. Trying to shake himself of those thoughts, he made a quick stop by the support studio where May Shirley was. Stood next to the door and counted to 5 to make sure nothing blew up. When nothing did in that time frame, we opened the door and stepped. Into his right was Power Loader at his desk looking over some paperwork. He looked up when he heard the door, and when he saw Izuku, he just pointed to where May was. Izuku thanked him and went looking for her. He saw her bent over trying to get reach for something. He saw her very defined, ass aimed right at him. That just did something to him on a primal level. So he snuck up behind her and saw what she was reaching for. So with a quick 2-hit combo, he smacked her ass, and when she reacted with a little squeak and reeled back, he grabbed what she was reaching for. She looked at him with a cute pout. That is just mean, she said as she crossed her arms under her chest, pushing them up a little bit. He just chuckled. It's not mean if I helped you out, he said as he lifted his hand with the part she was trying to reach and showing it to her. She just huffed, snatched the part out of his hand, and walked past him to continue her newest baby. He just stared after her and enjoying how his feelings for her seemed to grow with each passing minute he was with her. She was just blatantly ignoring him now though. He just sighed and walked up behind her and quickly wrapped his arms around her to bring her into a tight hug. She fought for a second to then accept her fate and to snuggled into him. I only came by to remind you about my sparring match in 10 minutes. Just wanted to let you know, so if you wanted to watch you could come and see it, he told her. She just hummed in thought for a minute and shook her head. No, I want to work on my babies. The sports festival is coming up, you know. I've got to show my babies off so companies can scout me. He just nodded and let her know that was fine and let go of her. She then froze and inquired if this was one of those moments where the girlfriend goes and cheers on her man. He just laughed at that while she just pouted at him. He informed her no, it's not, she can do all the cheering she wants for him at the sports festival. She just nodded okay and gave him a quick kiss and went back to work. He then left the studio to head to Gym Gamma. He made it with 2 minutes to spare. He walked in and saw 3 things. The first and most noticeable was a muscular, naked, blonde guy popping out of the ground every few seconds while flying a few feet into the air to only fall back into the ground a few meters apart from his last pop-up. A girl in a girl's gym uniform that looked to be a little taller than May, with long light blue hair that reached just above her ankles and flowed behind her. She also had an incredible figure, looked to have a nice pair of legs with some thick thighs and a really nice ass, who was flying in the air trying to blast blonde guy with these wave energy attacks. He finally ripped his eyes from her to see a skinny-looking guy with black, somewhat spiked black hair and what looked like elf ears. He was kind of leaning against the wall watching them until he noticed Izuku. Then it looked like he freaked and spun around and faced the wall. Izuku didn't know what to do in this situation. He was barely passable for normal social interactions. This was just insane. So, He did the one thing he could think of. He just shot a zero in between the blonde guy when he popped out of the ground and the blue-haired girl. That got both of their attention, and they quickly looked over and saw Izuku standing there. "Oh, this must be my new sparring partner," the naked blonde said, as he ran over to the black-haired one to get his clothes. While he did that, the attractive blue-haired girl flew at him and started circling him, asking him questions a mile a minute. "Oh, are you the first year? What is your quirk? Is it true you turned into a dragon during the entrance exams? Is it true you killed a monster that was supposed to match All Might? How strong are you?" Getting tired of all her questions real quick, Izuku shot his hand out and covered her mouth. "For the love of God, one question at a time," he told her with an exasperated sigh. "He came here for a fight, not 20 questions." "Haha, that's just Nijire. She can't stop the questions when they start coming." The blonde one laughed as he made his way towards Izuku, fully clothed, and dragging the black-haired one behind him. "Why don't we introduce ourselves? I am Mirio Togata, the guy you are going to spar. The one you are holding is Nijire Hado, and this right behind me is Tamaki Yamajiki. And we are Dash." "The big three," Izuku deadpanned at him. "I know your title. Nizu informed me when he set this up." "Well, looks like he beat me to it." The blonde laughed. "So, this green-haired first year is my sparring partner. He looks like the serious type. I am just going to have to break him out of his shell," Mirio thought with a smile. "So, this is my sparring partner. He looks like the laid-back kind of guy. He isn't going to take this seriously, is he?" Izuku thought to himself. "Why don't you introduce yourself?" Mirio said to Izuku with a smile. "I am Izuku Midoriya, and please just call me Izuku. I despise formalities," Izuku told them. This got Mirio and Nijire both to smile brightly at him. "Ugh, too bright," Izuku thought. "Then you can call us all by our first names." Mirio cheered as Nijire nodded her head, and Tamaki was still hiding behind Mirio. "All right, I'll do that. So, you the one I'm sparring?" Izuku asked Mirio. "Yep, I'll make sure I'll go easy on you since you are a first year after all," Mirio informed him with a smile. "Yeah, don't do that. I won't get anything out of this if you go easy. Just treat me like any other opponent." Izuku told him, slightly annoyed he was being underestimated. "Oh, I get you. You have your pride after all. I can get that," Mirio said as he nodded his head. "Okay, so what happened to your quirk?" Nizu said that you had a quirk evolution. "What changed?" Izuku asked. "Oh, well, as you already saw, my original power was permeation, where I could slip through anything, be it parts of my body or my whole body. As you saw, I can even slip through the ground," Mirio informed Izuku, who just nodded. "Now though, my quirk mutated, and now I also have a powerful enhancer. Like so powerful I broke bones the first time used it. I can't use the full amount yet, but the more I use it, the more my body adapts, so I can get to the full output someday. That is why I need a sparring partner, so I can get my new quirk under control, and so can work with both in tandem," Mirio explained to Izuku, who widened his eyes a little bit. "An enhancer that strong? This is going to be fun," Izuku thought as he started getting excited. "Okay, I get your problem. One quick question before we beat the shit out of each other, though." He got interrupted by Mirio's boisterous laugh, Nijire's giggle, and Tamaki's huff. "How much of the max output can you use?" he asked Mirio. "I can safely stay at a 20% constant output, 35% for a powered-up attack, and that can only be for a few seconds at a time, and I can't do those often." "All right, let's get his show on the road," Izuku said as they got prepared for the fight. Nijire and Tamaki stood off to the side as Izuku and Mirio stood 20 feet apart. What no one knew is that Aizawa, All Might, and Nizu were all in Nizu's office watching what was about to happen. "This is going to be interesting," Nizu said. "Problem Child is going to finally cut loose against a person for once," Aizawa said. "Hope he doesn't hurt Mirio too much." "Have some faith in Mirio. Aizawa, he's gotten that new power after all Might said with a hint of pride. "Oh, showing favoritism, or are you just don't like Midoriya?" asked Aizawa. "What, I am not showing favoritism, and I don't hate Midoriya," All Might retorted with a little annoyance in his tone. "Well, the kid hates you, and that is something you don't see often. What, did you kill his dog or something?" inquired Aizawa. "And oh, I didn't kill his dog. Well, I dash." He was cut off by Nizu. "That is a story for another time," he said as he gave All Might a look that made him shiver. "Look, they are starting." Back to the boys, they were staring each other down. Izuku finally picked up a stray stone and tossed it in the air. Both got into ready stance when the stone peaked, and when at the ground Izuku lunged forward. He brought up a fist and aimed for Mirio's face. It slipped right through and Mirio tried to gut punch Izuku, but he just took the hit with no damage. Izuku jumped back and looked at his opponent. He is a close-range fighter that is also immune to long-range attacks if he can see them coming. I am going to assume that he can't use his senses when he is intangible, though. Izuku thought. Before he could try anything, Mirio slipped into the ground without his clothes. Great, now I'll have to fight him while he's naked. He barely picked up a sound behind himself, so he jumped forward and turned midair to Mirio, who was there with a look of surprise on his face. Izuku then launched a zero at Mirio that he just slipped through. Izuku, knowing he could tank the hits Mirio threw at him, decided to say fuck it and fight hand-to-hand. He then shot forward at Mirio and quickly got into fast-paced martial arts match. They were perfectly balancing each other, Mirio slipping through everything, and Izuku just not dodging and taking hit after hit with no damage. Both were starting to have fun with their fight. For Mirio, it was genuine enjoyment, while for Izuku, it was battle hunger that had him wanting to fight more and more. After a couple of minutes of flying fists and feet, both jumped back. Let's kick this up a notch, Izuku said with a grin. Oh, and what do you have in mind? Mirio asked with a grin of his own. You use your enhancer at the 20% level, and I take the kid gloves off, Izuku told him. You sure? I don't want to hurt you, Mirio said, a little worried. You haven't hurt me yet, so get on with it, Izuku growled as he then flooded the building with his power. You asked for it. One for all 20% cloak, Mirio shouted. Izuku could feel the power wafting from Mirio and grinned wider. This was going to be fun. They both shot forward like bullets to meet each other. They clashed again, and this time Mirio wasn't slipping through as many of Izuku's attacks, combination of trying to tank them and not having the time to. So he was slowly taking damage. Izuku, on the other hand, was doing just fine, negating all the damage since a Quirk was causing it. Izuku then got in close and got a good hold on Mirio and threw him away. While he was trying to recover, Izuku launched a roar at him. Mirio slipped through, but since his senses were gone, Izuku snuck up on him from behind. Dragon's Destruction Fist. Izuku roared as he punched Mirio right in the middle of the back. Mirio yelled in pain as he flew forward. He recovered with only enough time to slip through a zero. He landed and was panting. He looked up, and Izuku still looked right as rain. While Izuku's shirt was destroyed by Mirio's attacks, but Izuku looked unharmed. He wasn't even breathing heavy. Screw it, Mirio thought. One for all 35% cloak. He roared and shot at Izuku, who was unprepared by the sudden speed boost. Detroit Smash. Mirio yelled as he punched Izuku in the face. Like every other time, in this fight Izuku just took it and didn't move an inch. I should have probably warned you. I am immune to all quirks, Izuku said with a smile, Mirio's fist still attached to his face. Mirio's eyes widened at that. Izuku then kicked him square in the chest to get some distance. Izuku then froze and started sniffing the air. This can't be right, Izuku thought as he looked at Mirio. The scent was so similar to All Might's, and he even used the same attack. Izuku then became enraged. This was one of the worst things anyone had ever done to him, and he is including Bakugo. No one can just use him like that. He will not be used. You are his son, Izuku roared out. His eyes glowing and power was surging off him in waves. You dare to use me to train his son? Izuku roared to the heavens. Mirio looked at him in confusion, same as his friends. Aizawa looked confused as well, but when he saw both Nizu and All Might's faces, he was wondering what he was missing. Both looked terrified, and to see Nizu scared, that was saying something. Who do you think is my father? Mirio cautiously asked, wondering what had just caused Izuku to get so angry. It's so obvious you're All Might's son, that caused the other 5 people to widen their eyes. While Mirio looked shocked for a second, but put a placating look on his face. But before he could say anything, Izuku continued. It's so obvious, tall, blonde, big build, similar scent, and very similar quirks. You can't try to deny it. Nizu even knew of my feels regarding All Might, and he is making me help his son get control of his power. I have never felt so used before. Izuku kept unleashing more and more power. By this point, Everyone on UA's campus could feel his power. His head hurt so much. Izuku felt so angry, he then looked at Mirio dead in the eye. I am going to kill you. Izuku roared as his power swarmed him, and after a few seconds his power expanded and exploded out, revealing his dragon form and blowing apart the roof. He then roared to the heavens. I will destroy everything. Izuku then looked back down at Mirio and lifted and clawed hand. He brought it down right on top of Mirio, who used one for all to jump and to slip through the attack at the same time. He tried to get to his friends, but Izuku stopped him with another swing of his clawed hand. He was sent flying in the other direction. When he landed, he saw that Nijire had picked up Tamaki and were flying away. By this time, all the teachers had assembled with Nizu, All Might, Aizawa in front. Nizu had a megaphone. Mr. Midoriya, you need to calm down. You are causing unnecessary destruction and putting other students' lives at risk. He called out. Izuku turned around to look at him, but when he saw the group, his power surged. All Might, I will kill you, you hypocritical piece of shit. He roared at the group of teachers. Many had surprised looks and looked between the student and All Might, who just had a grim look on his face. And you, Nizu, you said I could trust you, but you used me, just like everyone else. Izuku roared. Now that statement caught everyone who could hear Izuku off guard. What did Nizu do to him? They all wondered. With a grim face, Nizu responded, Mr. Midoriya, this is all just a misunderstanding. If you would calm down and transform back down, we could tell you the truth. He tried to reason with him. Enzo, no more lies. I will not be made a fool of. I am the Dragon King. No one tricks me and gets away with it. With that, he lunged forward with a clawed hand raised. The other teachers retreated while All Might lifted his hands and caught the clawed hand. Young Midoriya, you need to listen to us. You need to calm down. I won't listen to a hypocrite and a liar. Izuku roared out as he swung his other hand and smacked All Might away. Roar! Izuku shot a roar out that hit All Might head on. He was sent rocketing away in pain. When he landed, he recovered and jumped back at Izuku. Sorry about this, young Midoriya. Detroit Smash. All Might yelled as he punched Izuku in the face, which had no effect on Izuku. You are like a fly. No matter how many times I smack you away, you keep coming back. Izuku said as he smacked All Might to the ground. He was bringing his hand up again, ready to squash All Might when a shout made him freeze. Izuku, don't do it. Mei yelled as she ran up to him. He looked down at her. Mei, you need to leave. I could hurt you. He told her with clear worry in his voice. But you won't. I know you wouldn't hurt me. She told him as she grabbed a clawed hand with hers. Her touch made him start to make him calm down. He looked around and saw that the other teachers were looking at him ready to fight. He also saw that students were looking at him with fear. He then looked back down at her. Forgive me, he quietly asked her. But his voice carried, and others heard him. He then was surrounded in his aura and quickly deformed. He was standing there in half a gym uniform. Mei then hugged him tightly. By this point, the teachers had surrounded him all ready for action. Before they could say anything, Nizu and Aizawa appeared in front of them all. Now, let's not go doing anything we will regret, Nizu said as he turned to face Izuku. He shocked everyone when he got onto his knees and bowed before Izuku. This is all my fault, to begin with. I should have told Izuku beforehand why he was sparring with Mirio. For that, I deeply apologize. This shocked everyone. No one thought they would ever see the day Nizu would bow to someone. Izuku had the most shocked face of all. He then dropped to his own knees and bowed as well. I am sorry for my actions, he said. Nizu rose back up and said, that is quite all right. Now once Mirio and All Might are healed, we will explain everything. Izuku rose back up and nodded. An hour later, Izuku was sitting in the nurse's office with Nizu, a skinny All Might, Mirio, and Recovery Girl. Izuku was sitting with his arms crossed, waiting for someone to start explaining how everything was a misunderstanding. Finally, after no one spoke up, Izuku got sick of the silence. Okay, so can someone finally explain to me why they have similar sense and quirks, but aren't father and son? They all looked at each other, and All Might decided to tell him about One for All. After he explained that, Izuku sat in silence for a little bit. All right, so this quirk is passed down, yes? They all nodded. Okay, so this quirk has two aspects, the stockpiling and the transferring. They nodded again. You are still holding back information, he said with absolute certainty. This made the 3 out of the 4 freezes in shock. The only one who didn't was Mirio, as he looked at the rest confused. What are you talking about? All Might asked, trying to sound confused himself. You are a terrible liar, Izuku replied. It was then that Nizu started laughing. He told All Might that Izuku was too smart to play dumb to him. So, with that, All Might told both Izuku and Mirio the origins of One for All, about its creator All for One, and how he created the quirk by trying to force a quirk onto his brother. Now both Izuku and Mirio knew the full story and mulling over it. Izuku suddenly looked like he had been struck. They all looked at him then. Mirio has both his original quirk and One for All. What is your original quirk, All Might? Izuku asked. This made All Might flinch, knowing that Izuku wasn't going to like the answer. I was quirkless before I got One for All, he said quietly. Hee ha ha ha. Izuku started laughing like he was crazy. This made them all look at him slight apprehension. I was right, you are nothing but a hypocrite and a liar. This made Mirio and Recovery Girl look at him in confusion because they didn't know the truth. Oh, he hadn't let you know what he told me a year ago, did he? Izuku asked the rest of the room with a mocking smile. Up until a year ago, I was quirkless. This made Mirio widen his eyes. I wanted to be a hero with all my heart. I wanted to just like All Might to save people with a smile on my face. Izuku said with a sad smile. No one believed in me. Even my own mother saw me as a glass sculpture that would be broken. When I finally got the chance to meet All Might and ask him it was possible, do you know what he said? He said, no, not without a quirk. It's okay to dream, but make sure it is realistic. Those were his exact words. After he left me on the roof we were on, I took some advice I had gotten earlier that day and jumped off. This shocked Mirio and Recovery Girl to their cores. It is only because I gained my quirk during my fall did I survive. This explanation shocked Mirio. He glanced over at All Might, who was just sitting there with a guilty expression on his face. Recovery Girl marched over to him and started hitting him with her cane and berating him for his stupidly. Don't worry, Mirio, I will still spar with you. The sins of the previous holder won't be passed on to the current. I would like to apologize to Nijire and Tamaki if I can, though. Izuku asked Mirio. Mirio just smiled brightly at him. Of course, I'll probably have to explain One for All a little bit to them so they understand what happened, but I'm sure when they get the whole story they'll forgive you, and don't worry, your secret is safe with them. Izuku smiled at him and thanked him. He then left to go find Mei because it had been a long day. The next 2 weeks for Izuku were spent in the classroom having regular classes, spending time with Mei and his friends, or sparring with Mirio. They sparred during their free heroics hour or after school. Their spars helped both of them immensely. Mirio got more of One for All under his constant control and could mix both that quirk and his original one better. Izuku refined his form before he fought with pure instinct. Now he doesn't have a proper form or anything, but he does have more precise movements and less wasted movements. As for the rest of the student body, they all watched him, many with apprehension and others with fear. Many have seen go out of control before, but to see one that caused the person to become a dragon, that frightened them. Izuku didn't care what they thought. He has plenty of memories where people looked at him in fear, so it was like the water of a duck's back for him. It wasn't just Mirio and him in Gym Gamma either. Nijire and Tamaki were constant fixtures as well. Izuku even sparred with them a few times. There is one spar with Nijire that Izuku keeps thinking about. They were in the middle of a spare and Izuku could only use long-range attacks to match Nijire. So he kept using Siros and roars. She would be in the air flying trying to get the advantage while Izuku was moving quickly on the ground to try to knock her out of the sky. As after 30 minutes of constant flying, avoiding Izuku's attacks, and firing her own off, did her quirk finally quit on her. She yelped as she started to fall from 40 feet up. Izuku saw this and quickly jumped and caught her. He landed with a slam and was holding her bridal style. She was half asleep, but was looking at him in some form of wonder and something else he couldn't place right at that moment, while he looked down at her. She smiled coyly and said, "My hero," as she leaned up and kissed his cheek. Then she snuggled into his arms and fell asleep. Izuku just stood frozen, not knowing what to do. He couldn't just drop her, and he couldn't just put her somewhere and leave her. Even his ever-shrinking conscience wouldn't allow that. So, Izuku just walked over to a wall and sat down with her head in his lap, not knowing what else to do. When he did, though, she snuggled up deeper in, so her face was an inch from his stomach. Izuku just quietly groaned at his predicament. As he sat there, he swore he heard someone in his ear. When he looked around and saw no one, he just brushed it off, though. He sat there until Mirio and Tamaki showed up because they were late that day. They looked upon them with curious eyes. Then Mirio gained a sly grin. "Izuku, you sly dog, you," Mirio said with that damned grin. Tamaki, having gotten better around Izuku, tried to hide his chuckle behind his hand. "It's not what it looks like, I swear," he denied, and then explained what had happened. They just laughed at his predicament. He just scowled and glared at them. From then on, Nijire would then give him these weird looks like she was trying to figure something out. And every time he would meet her eyes, she would blush and look away. He had an idea what that meant, but he didn't want to deal with it because that would mean he would have to deal with his growing feels for her as well. And ever since that day, every time he sees her, he hears a voice whisper in his ear. With all the time he spent with her for those 2 weeks, it would be hard not to start to gain feelings. She was just so happy and energetic, even more than May even. She would constantly compliment him and ask him all kinds of questions and then say how smart he was when he answered them all. She was just so positive, and it was nice to have her around. She was a touchy person like May as well, so she would grab his muscles and compare them to Mirio's, and Izuku didn't know what to do with the situation. So, he decided to bury those feelings until the sports festival was over. That wasn't the weirdest thing, though. The weirdest part was he started to have some strange dreams since he realized he had feelings for Nijire as well as May. It was these dreams where he was talking to a dragon. The weirdest part about those dreams was that he called the dragon he was talking to Acnologia when the dragon looked nothing like Acnologia. This dragon was a grayish-white and had dragon hair. He was asking the dragon questions of how dragon culture was different from humans. In these dreams, he seemed to by healing the dragon he was talking to. Every night the dream would pick up where it left off the night before. After 3 nights of these dreams, he realized they were more of Acnologia's memories. Finally, one night he and the dragon got on the topic of love and partners. The dragon said that normal dragons mated for life. So, once you picked your partner, that was it until your death. But there was a different class of dragons whose mating was different. These were the dragon kings, and they mated for life, yes, but they had more than one mate. The max number was unknown. Each king just had as many as they could handle. When Izuku awoke after that one, he just groaned knowing that it would be okay if he had more than one relationship, at least by dragon standards, but May might not like it. All of Class 11A was waiting in their locker room, waiting until they were called out by Present Mike. Everyone was in their gym uniforms plus shoes, excluding Izuku since he wasn't in his hero costume. He straight up told his class, "Fuck shoes." So he is currently barefoot as he sat and meditated. He then felt a presence in front of him. He looked up and came face to face with the Shoko. She had this neutral look that she always had, but there was something different about her look this time. He could see the determination in her eyes. He just lifted an eyebrow at her. "Can I help you with something?" he asked. If this was the first day of school, I would have said I was stronger than you. But once I witnessed you destroy something that was supposed to kill All Might, I realized that you were far stronger than I had originally thought. Be that as it may, I will not lose to you today. I am going to win the festival," she declared to him. The others in their class just watched on in awe, all excluding Bakugo, who just narrowed his eyes at the situation. Izuku smirked at this, and something within his mind said that she was worthy. He had no idea what the voice meant, but he has to say he was agreeing with it. "May the best man win," is all he said as he stood up and headed towards the door. That is when they got their green light. Every class was now standing in the arena after Present Mike announced them. Aizawa was also in the booth with him, and Izuku wondered how he got stuck up there. "All right, everyone, let's give a round of applause to Izuku Midoriya, who will be saying the student pledge for getting the highest score in the entrance exam and breaking 2 UA records while doing so. This fine young man is both brains and brawn, being the only one to 100% the written exam and break the record for most total points in the practical portion with a whopping 190. The chief referee Midnight announced to the crowd, who went wild at the information. Izuku just growled. "I see Nizu 3 times a week, and he left out the part of me having to do this," he said with clear annoyance. He then straightened out his face to make it blank as he walked up to the platform. He then walked up to the mic and took a breath. He scanned all the first-year classes. All men are not created equal. He started and caught everyone's attention at the same time. Some have stronger quirks than others. Some have 2 quirks. And some have no quirks at all. Everyone in this world is different. There is no exact copy of anybody. Everyone here is different, and I only ask you to do one thing for me today. Give me a challenge," he said and walked off the stage without another word. The crowd was stunned for a second, but soon clapped their approval. What a wonderful speech by Class 1A resident Izuku Midoriya. Now on to the first event, and that is, as Midnight looked at a spinning wheel. An obstacle race, she announced. She then described the rules of the race. They must make 1 lap around the stadium with difficult obstacles in their way. Each student lined up ready to begin the race. "Go," Midnight shouted, and just like that everyone took off, but something became apparent as the mass of students tried to get through the tunnel. The tunnel became clogged. It was at this moment that Shoko tried to block off the others with a wall of ice. She was barely past her ice all when Izuku broke through with a single punch. He was smirking the entire time. She looked back over her shoulder and glared at him. Since they were out in the open, Izuku decided to cut loose. He then launched forward, causing a sonic boom in the process. He flew past Shoko as he did. She just glared after him. When the entrance exam robots came into view, Izuku just dodged all the smaller ones. When the 0-pointers appeared, though, Izuku stopped, took a deep breath, and roared at the 0-pointers, destroying the heads of all of them. This made them all start falling forwards. Izuku just expertly weaved through the mayhem. He just kept running forward. That is when he got to the pits. He then jumped from landing to landing without a second of hesitation. He had a great lead on everyone. Finally got to the last obstacle. It was a minefield. He only stopped for a second before he jumped in the air and kept launching zeros and where he was going to land. When he made it to the end, he cut his speed down and jogged to the finish, getting first place. The crowd went wild at his overwhelming victory. He is now viewed positively by most every hero watching the sports festival. He just stood there with his hand in his pockets and smirked, relishing the attention. It was at this point that Shoko came in second place, with Bakugo following right behind in third. A minute later, the rest of the students started to make it to the finish line. Only the top 42 contestants, so the rest were then ushered off the field. It was then announced the second round would be a cavalry battle where teams of 2 to 4 people would compete to get the headbands of other players. Points were allotted to where you placed in the first event. Izuku, for getting first place, got a whopping 10 million. Izuku felt all the eyes on him and just smirked. This is going to be fun, he thought. He then looked around and saw that others were already forming teams. Before he could look for anybody, May appeared before him, saying this was a win-win for her. She gets to be with her boyfriend, and she gets to show off her inventions. Izuku just smiled at her and patted her head. He looked around and saw most already have made teams, and those teams were all looking at him in May. An idea then struck him, and he grinned like the devil himself. He then grabbed May and dragged her towards Midnight, who had just announced the 2-minute warning. He asked if his transformation was cheating if he did it after the round started, and May rode on his back the entire time he was in the form. Midnight just looked at him for a second, and before she could respond, Nizu's voice appeared over the loudspeaker and announced that Izuku's request was approved. Izuku just grinned like an idiot. Many were wondering what his request was because no one heard what he said to Midnight. Izuku quickly told May his plan, and her grin matched his, grabbed his headband, and jumped on his back. God, he loved her. Many looked at them confused. "Begin," Midnight yelled to begin the match. Izuku then whipped around, grabbed May, and with the help of her boots launched her in the air. Many were stunned at what they saw until they felt a wave of power. Every student felt the power before they all froze, not knowing what to do. Izuku's aura surrounded him and expanded at a rapid rate until it disappeared with the swing of a giant scaled arm. There in his full glory was him in his dragon form, barely fitting in the arena. He lifted his head and roared. May then landed on his upper back and sat down and started working on one of her babies. Many of the students and the audience didn't know what to make of the situation. Izuku just looked down at the students and laughed. His classmates who had seen the form before reacted first and started targeting other students. Anyone that came near to Izuku, he smacked away with his tail or a clawed hand. Izuku saw Bakugo eyeing him more than once, but he obviously thought better of it. He also had to break an ice attack apart more than once as well. He had to keep an eye on Shoko to make sure she didn't get close to Mei. When Izuku saw the blonde guy, he looked like he was having a brain aneurysm. Izuku just laughed at that. He and Mei had won first place in the second event without as much as lifting a finger. When Izuku powered down, he again just smirked. The next round is what it always is, a 1v1 fighting tournament. The 16 people continuing were Izuku Midoriya, Mei Hatsum, Shoko Todoroki, Tinya Ida, Momo Yaoyorozu, Denki Kaminari, Katsuki Bakugo, Eijiro Kirishima, Mina Ishido, Hantashiro, Achiko Uraraka, Fumikage Tokoyami, Hitoshi Shinso, Nito Monoma, Tetsu Ibara Shiozaki. They were told they have a 15-minute break before they announced the first-round matches. That is when Shoko walked up to him and calmly asked him if she could speak with him for a moment. She may have looked calm, but Izuku could see the multitude of emotions in her eyes. Since they had 15 minutes, Izuku agreed and followed her out of the arena into an isolated hallway. "You almost made me use it," she coolly stated to him. "Made you use what?" Izuku asked as he leaned against the wall and crossed his arms. "My left side, his fire. I wanted to win so much that I almost used it against you," she told him. "And why are you only using half your quirk?" Izuku asked with a mixture of annoyance and curiosity. "Have you ever heard of quirk marriages?" she asked him. When all Izuku did was raise an eyebrow, Shoko then informed him of her parents' sham of a marriage and of her origins and her father's abuse. To say Izuku was pissed would be an understatement. He was downright furious. How did anyone, let alone the number 2 hero, do such things to their family to just reach such a stupid goal? No wonder her mother snapped. Izuku didn't blame her in the slightest. "So, I have to beat you. To prove to that bastard I don't need his power to be a great hero," she informed him as she turned to leave. "You know I was quirkless until a year ago, right?" he suddenly asked her with a blank face. "Yes, you told us. What about it?" she replied, looking over her shoulder. "So, you should know the quirkless in this world are treated like they are lower than dirt, like they shouldn't exist. I have faced abuse all my life, just like you. Both were caused by this society and their love of people with powerful quirks. Let me tell you this," appearing in front of her then, shocking her slightly. "I am going to win this because I've been put down my whole life. So, if you don't come at me with everything you have, you will be embarrassing us both." With that, Izuku walked past her back into the tunnel. She watched after him for a second, trying to calm down her heart. He looked so scary right there, so serious, and a little hot. That may have turned her on a little bit. She froze at that thought and shook her head and went back to the arena herself. Izuku walked up to the corner he knew Bakugo was leaning against. "So, how much did you hear of all that?" he asked him. "I got here when she asked if you knew what quirk marriages were," he informed Izuku with a slight somber look on his face. Izuku just nodded and looked at him. "We will do nothing about the information for right now. She told me in confidence, so I won't break her trust," Izuku said. Bakugo just nodded as well. They then made their way to the arena. Right. When they arrived, they announced what the first-round matchups would be. Izuku Midoriya versus Hitoshi Shinso. Nito Monoma versus Mina Ishido. Denki Kaminari versus Ibara Shiozaki. Shoko Todoroki versus Hantashiro. Tinya Ida versus Mei Hatsum. Eijiro Kirishima versus Tetsu. Katsuki Bakugo versus Achiko Uraraka. Fumikage Tokoyami versus Momo Yaoyorozu. With that, they were told to go to their assigned seating area until the stadium was built. Every class went to their balconies except for Mei, who went with class so she could sit next to Izuku. He told her that she could show off her babies all she wanted, but she wasn't allowed to trick Ida. She whined and complained but agreed to Izuku's demands. With that, Izuku was then called down to the fighting stage. When he made it, he stood across from Shinso. They stood there grinning at each other. "I have an idea," Izuku told him right after midnight started the match. When Shinso just raised an eyebrow, Izuku continued. We haven't checked to see if your brainwashing works on me. Let's test it out. You can order me to walk out of bounds if you want. He told. Shinso widened his eyes. You sure? He asked with a little worried. Izuku just nodded. All right. You are an arrogant prick who I hope to see lose the tournament, Shinso said. Really? Izuku then stiffened and his eyes clouded over. Looks like I got you. For the sake of our friendship, I will give you some time. Walk to the middle of the arena and then turn around and walk out of bounds. Shinso ordered. Many were wondering what was going on. But Aizawa over the mic told them that they were performing an experiment to see if Shinso's quirk worked on Midoriya because they haven't tried yet. He then informed them of Shinso quirk and how useful it was, and that Izuku can normally negate quirks. During all this explanation, Izuku was struggling in his own head. This is bullshit. I am supposed to be immune to all quirks. How the hell did this happen? He kept struggling. Finally, something clicked, and power rushed through him and negated the quirk's ability that was controlling his mind. Izuku then roared to the heavens and flooded the whole stadium. Everyone felt his incredible power. He then looked back at Shinso, who just smirked at Izuku. Izuku then lifted a hand and taunted him over. Shinso then rushed him. They started a one-sided fist fight. Shinso tried his best, but he couldn't keep up with Izuku, and after a couple of solid hits, Shinso dropped defeated. Izuku was named the winner. He then bent over Shinso and smacked him a few times to wake him up. They then shook hands and walked out of the arena together. When they got back to their seats, they watched as Monoma used quirks from his classmates to face off against Mina and taunted her the entire time. She had mobility than him, but he had 3 different quirks he kept switching between. He eventually knocked her out of bounds. For the next fight, Izuku thought he would enjoy Kaminari's fight with the Vine Girl. That is until Kaminari fried his brain and was captured in under 30 seconds. Izuku just sighed at that. For Shoko versus Zero, Izuku expected a lot of things. What he didn't expect was Shoko freezing half the stadium. When he saw her face, though, he could see it was a mixture of anger and sadness. He then decided right there to do something about the girl that some voice in the back of his mind said was worthy. That made him freeze. This voice said the same thing in the locker room, and he ignored it. He knew he heard the voice before. It was quieter when he heard it before, but he couldn't place it. It was at that moment that Mei told him she had to go prepare. She then kissed his cheek quickly and left. Then it hit Izuku. He heard the voice with both Mei and Nijire. For Mei, it took a while to hear it. He had to understand what his feelings were before the voice appeared. It started to do the same thing with Nijire after he caught her from falling that day. It was his dragon instincts telling him that those women were worthy of him, and he should pick them as his mates. He then groaned loudly, which caught the attention of everyone in his class sitting in their booth. They all looked at him in confusion. He just waved them off and said he forgot about something. He had no idea what he was going to do about this. He will have to deal with it later and talk to Mei about it. Also, it doesn't matter. Shoko probably doesn't like him and Nijire, while she may not okay with the idea of sharing him. He still needs to talk to Mei before anything remotely can happen. The next fight was Mei versus Ida, so Izuku sat up in his seat to really watch this one. His girlfriend versus one of his best friends. He decided to cheer neutrally. The match went as he thought it would, though. Mei was down there with a microphone she stole and was announcing every baby she used and what it did, while Ida was just trying to have a fair fight. After 5 or so minutes of showing off her babies, Mei just hopped out of bounds. Izuku had to laugh at that. It was just too funny not to. The next match was Kirishima versus Tetsu, and he could have put money down on how it was going to go. They beat the shit out of each other until both fell over unconscious. The next round match was Bakugo versus Uraraka. Izuku watched the fight in fascination. Bakugo had the obvious advantage of the whole fight, but the respect Uraraka, Izuku had never seen of him before. When she finally dropped from exhaustion, Bakugo walked up to he picked him up bridal style and walked off to head to Recovery Girl. Izuku could hear what Bakugo said when he picked her up, though. He congratulated her and thanked him for a great fight. Izuku smirked at this. Oh, Bakugo, what are those budding feelings you have? Izuku thought. The last of the round fight caught his attention, though. It was Momo versus Tokoyami, and I looked like Momo got stuck in her head and couldn't focus on creating as well as trying to defend from his endless attacks. He could see with every second her confidence was slowing fading. all until she fell out of the ring in shock and sadness. Izuku then stood up and told everyone he was heading to his waiting room, even though he had 15 minutes to prepare. He gave Mei a quick kiss and told her to watch as he kicked the blonde guy's ass. Izuku then went looking for Momo, and with his hearing trained for her, he found her 5 minutes later sitting in an empty hallway basically in tears. "What are the tears for?" Izuku asked when he walked up. She quickly panicked and tried to wipe her eyes. "It's fine," he said as he sat next to her. "It is okay to feel sadness and defeat. What you can't do is let it consume you whole," he told her. She just looked at him wondering where this is coming from. Where this is coming from, Izuku. We've barely said more than 5 sentences to each other since move-in day. Why were you helping me here? She asked him to let her annoyance be known. He just smiled at her, not his creepy smile. No, it was his soft smile he saved for those he liked and cared about. Her breath caught in her throat when she saw that smile. "Because I know what it is like to be stuck inside your own head. I know what it feels like to doubt your every move, to overthink everything you do, thinking everything you do will end up in failure," he told her with a sad smile now. How? She tried to start. "You know, I was quirkless up until a year ago, so you should know the quirkless are not treated the best in today's society." She looked like she was about to interrupt when a look from him stopped her. "You can't try to deny it, Momo. I lived through it since I was 4 until I was 17. If you don't have a quirk, many will ridicule you. Most will ignore you, and some will just pity you but won't help you because they are looking out for themselves. This world is not a nice place. It is our jobs as heroes to make it nicer, though." She just looked at him in awe during this explanation. She could see the sincerity in his face and hear it in his voice. "I originally wanted to be a hero to save people with a smile like All Might, but that eventually changed. I then wanted to be a hero out of spite to show all those people that this late of a bloomer could be a hero. Now I don't know what my motivation is, a mixture of both? I personally don't know. What I do know is that I am never going to give up, no matter what happens. And I know you can't give up either. I may not know your motivations, Momo." He then looked her in the eyes, and Momo swore her heart skipped a beat. "What I do know is that you are a good person, and there need to be more people like you who become heroes. To make it a little nicer out there for those who are struggling." He finished with that soft smile again. Momo could swear her breath hitched. He had just said what she needed to hear, and some. And that was some of the greatest words she had ever heard strung together. She could literally see herself fall for him right there. Before she could say anything, though, Izuku was called to the arena. "Well, there's my cue," he said as he stood up. "I know I look like I am the most confident person in the world, but that comes from a place of deep insecurity. I never had this confidence a year ago. I built myself up from the bottom to get to where I am. I will tell you right now that it won't be easy, but I can tell you this, it is most definitely worth it." With that said, he walked away to head to his match. He was also trying to quiet down the voice that called her worthy as well. He left Momo there awestruck. He had said the sweetest thing she had ever heard. She felt her heart tighten. "Oh no, I just fell for him, didn't I?" she thought to herself. She then stood up and brushed herself off. "I am building myself up like him starting now." Izuku had just walked out of the tunnel leading to the arena. Here he is, folks, the boy, no man I should say, who's been destroying the competition. The one and only Dragon King of UA, Izuku Midoriya. Present, Mike yelled over the mic. When Izuku made it on top of the stage, he just sighed at that. Mike was making light of his title, and that pissed him off a little bit. Before about 20 feet away was Minona with his smug smile still. "Are you ready, Class 1A, because I am getting my revenge today?" Minona said with the utmost certainty. "Are you sure about that? I am known as Dragon King for a reason. Did my lesson from before not sink in yet?" Izuku asked, with a smug smile of his own. Minona just growled at that and got into a ready stance. Izuku just stood there impassively waiting for midnight to start the match and analyzing his opponent. Okay, he only used 3 quirks against Mina, meaning that must be how many he can hold at a time. So, when I see 3, that means he will be out of tricks. Also, even with all his taunting during his last fight, he rushed it though, meaning he has a time limit. I am going to guess around 5 minutes based on how rushed he was, Izuku analyzed. It was at that moment that Midnight began the match. Minona then rushed Izuku metal covering his visible arms and face. So, he borrowed Metalhead's quirk, was Izuku's thought as he didn't dodge the punch to the face. He then was punched ruthlessly by Monoma, who was laughing and talking shit. What Monoma didn't notice, though, and that others did, was Izuku wasn't reacting at all to the hits and wasn't taking damage either. Izuku, then sick of Monoma's constant blabbering of bullshit, caught one of the punches like he was catching air. He then brought up his other hand up as he pulled Monoma forward so his arm would be fully extended. He then put his other hand on the bottom side of Monoma's elbow and lightning quick snapped the elbow with minimal force. Monoma then screamed out in pain as he tried to pull his arm free. After about 10 seconds of his struggling, Izuku let go. Monoma stumbled back panting and holding his now broken arm, metal body long forgotten. Izuku then looked at him with glowing green eyes and smirked. "So is that it?" Izuku asked him with fake curiosity as he put his hands in his pockets. Monoma just growled at him, and his other hand became a blade and rushed Izuku again, screaming as he did. Many were shocked by this action, but what caught them really off guard was that Izuku didn't move in the slightest. The blade aimed for his chest and got a solid cut. Izuku didn't even blink at it. Monoma, blinded by pain and rage, just kept trying to cut Izuku repeatedly and failing every time. The only thing he successfully cut to pieces was Izuku's shirt that was hanging on by some threads. So, Izuku just tore off the rest of his shirt, and this had a reaction in the crowd. Every woman in the stadium and all watching over their TVs blushed at his physique. The size of their blushes varied, but all of them did. Monoma desperately tried one last attempt and rushed forward, trying to stab Izuku in the chest. The blade just bounced off. When Monoma paused in shock, Izuku struck, and then he grabbed the blade arm and moved behind Monoma in a burst of speed, still holding that arm. He then grabbed the already broken one at the wrist and pulled it back as well. He pulled them both until Monoma screamed in pain. Izuku then planted a foot in Monoma's back and pushed, bringing Monoma to his knees. Izuku kept pulling on the arms though. Monoma just screamed in pain. Suddenly Izuku stopped his pulling, and he spoke then loud enough for everyone to hear his voice as he projected it out. "Yield and I will let go. Don't and I will dislocate both your shoulders," was Izuku's ultimatum. After he said, the crowd shout for Monoma to give up. This just made him even angrier. "No, I will not give up to a trash like you," he screamed at the top of his lungs. Izuku just signed. "Don't say I didn't warn you," he said. With one swift tug, he dislocated both shoulders. With that done, he let the boy drop to the ground, fully unconscious from the severe pain. Izuku then looked at Midnight, who wore a shocked expression. "Call the match, he is beaten," Izuku told her. She just nodded dumbly. Because Nito Monoma is unable to continue, the winner by default is Izuku Midoriya, she announced. At first, the crowd was frozen, then one person started clapping, then others joined in. Soon the whole stadium clapped and cheered for Izuku, who just looked down at his opponent, who was just laying there. "Be this a lesson for you. There is always somebody stronger," Izuku told him as he turned and walked away without another word. Izuku made it back to his class after getting a new shirt from Recovery Girl, and they all congratulated him. Bakugo even gave him a nod. Izuku returned it as he sat down next to Mei and took her hand in his. Momo, who was sitting behind them, frowned at this, jealously growing in her gut. Izuku just looked back at her and smiled. When she saw that smile, she smiled too. Izuku then heard the voice call her worthy again. So, Izuku then turned his attention back to the arena. It was now time for Shoko versus Ibra. The match began and Ibra launched her Vine Barrage, but it was unable to handle Shoko's ice. So, in the matter of a minute, all Ibra's hair was frozen and she couldn't move it. The match went to Shoko. Izuku smirked at this development. "Looks like I have to face her in the semifinals," he thinks to himself. "That is coming to be a fun match. I can finally get her to use her fire. She may hate me right away, but in the future, she will thank me." With that match done, it was on to the next match. Since Kirishima and Tetsu tied in their match, they had a tie-breaking round where they arm wrestled. Kirishima won, so he moved on. So, the next match is Kirishima versus Ida. Izuku couldn't wait to see how this one went down. He then looked at Mei, and some guilt entered his gut. He was dating her, but thinking about other women. He had to talk to her, the sooner than better. Their match started, and it perfectly illustrated an unstoppable force versus an immovable object. Ida had the speed and mobility advantage, while Kirishima had the defensive and attack power. It was watching a tank take on a fighter jet. Soon Ida began to slow, and Kirishima's hardening began to fail. I was now a stamina battle. After a few more clashes, Kirishima got a solid on Ida right in the face, and because he was tired, he dropped because of it, leaving Kirishima the last one standing and being declared the winner. The next match was Bakugo versus Tokoyami, and that was a bad matchup. Because Bakugo's explosions create so much light, they weaken Dark Shadow considerably, making Tokoyami an easy target for Bakugo to defeat in the end. They had 10 minutes before the semifinales, so Izuku decided to spend it wandering around. When he had 5 minutes before his name was called, he decided to head toward his entrance to the arena tunnel. But who was waiting there but Shoko's shitty father Endeavor? "You there? I have been meaning to speak with you," Endeavor told him as stepped out into the middle of the hallway with his arms crossed. Izuku just looked at him impassively. "You have? Man, I should be honored," Izuku responded with a blank tone. Endeavor's eye twitched at that, but didn't respond to the comment. "I want you to marry my daughter." That statement alone froze time for Izuku. "And why? Pray tell, do you want me to marry Shoko?" Izuku asked him in pure bewilderment and a little annoyance when what Shoko told him earlier came flooding back. "You are already on a first-name basis. That's good. The reason is because of your children," Endeavor informed him. "About the first part, I just call people by the easier to say, be it first or last name. And for the second part of your statement, what do you mean our children?" Izuku asked, but having a slight idea of what he wanted. "Humph, the name thing doesn't matter. And for your children, don't you see how powerful they would be with your two quirks combined? You would have children that could make All Might a small footnote in history. Your children would be regarded as the best heroes who would have ever existed," he told Izuku with a slightly manic look in his eyes. "I'm sorry, I am only 18. I haven't even thought that far in the future yet. Also, I don't think Shoko is into me like that," Izuku informed him, trying to act calm, but a raging fire was burning in his chest. "That is no matter. I don't expect you to have children until you are out of UA anyway. And Shoko's feelings are no matter either. She will learn to love you. She knows she has to make strong heirs," Endeavor said, thinking he had convinced Izuku. Suddenly, a feeling of dread entered his heart as he looked at Izuku. Izuku's eyes were now glowing, and he had a snarl on his face as he leaked his power out. There was a voice in his head going on repeat telling him to kill Endeavor. He couldn't tell if it was dragon protectiveness or his own, and right now, he didn't care. He was just trying to make sure he didn't kill the number 2 hero right here and now. "You don't deserve to be a father," Izuku growled at him. And before Endeavor could respond, Izuku's power surged, knocking Endeavor off his feet. He was flat on his back and couldn't move. The pressure was too much. Izuku appeared above him in an instant. Something then entered his power surge. It was killing intent. The killing intent made Endeavor start to sweat, and his life flashed before his eyes. "You hurt your family again, and I find out about it. I will personally tear you, limb from limb. I will bath myself in your blood and laugh as I do. The world will be a better place with you not in it. Remember this, Endeavor. Shoko is a person and she can choose what she wants in life. If I find out you are still trying to control her, I will make sure you won't live to see tomorrow. Goodbye." With that, Izuku straightened up and walked away from the shaking prone Endeavor. After the aura left, Endeavor was slowly trying to get back up. The fear he felt was slowly turning to rage. "That boy thinks he can talk to me that way. The next time I see him." Before he could finish that thought, he heard a voice. "I wouldn't try anything to him, Endeavor." Endeavor spun and saw Nizu walking towards him with his paws behind his back. "What are you talking about, Aro Nizu?" he growled to the dean. "Well, I just wanted to warn you that the boy is under UA protection, and if I see a hint of you involved in an instant that gets him hurt, I will reveal to the world your dirty laundry." That froze Endeavor. "What are you talking about?" Endeavor asked with a scoff as he tried to hide the worry in this voice. "It's simple. Shoko revealed her origins to Izuku earlier today, and I have a recording of it." Endeavor again froze at these words. "You wouldn't dare dash." "Yes, I would. Although, the boy probably won't need my protection at the rate he is growing." "What do you mean by that?" Endeavor now asked, confused. "Oh, it's nothing. It is just that boy is going to be a king. And when that happens, no one on Earth would be able to touch him," Nizu informed Endeavor. "A king? Endeavor asked, completely confused. Yes, a king. That is something you don't need to know about. Now if you excuse me, I have some business to take care of. Goodbye for now, Endeavor, and remember, don't do anything stupid. Nizu said as he turned and left, leaving a confused Endeavor behind. Izuku had just walked onto the stage and stood across from Shoko, who just stared back at him with determination in her eyes. Izuku kept trying the voice in his head, calling her worthy. All right, let the first round of the semi-finales begin, Midnight yelled. In an instant half, the stage was covered in a huge amount of ice that covered everything and rose to the opening at the top of the stadium. The ice blast seemed stronger than the one she had used on Zero by a long shot. Shoko looked at Midnight. Call the match. He is beaten, she said coolly. Because Izuku Midoriya is unable to continue the wind dash, Midnight was interrupted by a loud cracking sound. Everyone's attention was on the solid wall of ice now. Then another cracking sound could be heard. That is when everyone the glowing aura in the ice. They saw Izuku's glowing green eyes, and then they saw him roar and the ice wall shattered. He landed on his feet with his shit torn again. He just looked at it in annoyance and cast it off again. Everyone was shocked on how he broke out of that monstrosity of ice without any trouble. Izuku then met Shoko's eyes, and she had a look of annoyance on her face. You are going to need more than that to put me down, he told her with a smirk on his face. She just growled and launched another wave of ice towards him. Izuku just waited until it got close and threw a punch. The second his fist hit the ice, it shattered to pieces. With a force so strong it sent wind pressure directly at Shoko, who had to put up a wall of ice behind her so she wouldn't get blown back. She just looked back at him as he had already put his fist down and was just looking at her impassively. You know, they say doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result is the definition of insanity, right? He asked her with his smirk still there. Are all you going to do talk? She yelled at him. No, I will also break every attack you throw at me. He responded with a genuine smile on his face. She then threw another ice ball at him. This time, Izuku slowly raised his hand with a glowing finger and launched at Zero at the ice wall, shattering it immediately. You can't win like this, and you know it. He told her, his voice sincere. You need to use your fire to even have a snowball's chance in hell to defeat me. Did he pay you off, or something? Now I am really mad, she growled out as she launched another ice wall that he shattered with another Zero. Actually, he did try to talk to me before the match, he informed her. That sentence made her stop attacking, though. What did he want from you? She asked with genuine interest. He ordered me to marry you, Izuku informed her as she gained a shock expression. He what? Yeah, he told me it would be only so for our powerful children. What did you say? She asked with a little fear in her voice. I said no, for a multitude of reasons. The first being you were being forced into a loveless marriage. The second is because no one tells me what to do. And third, your dad is a prick. He told her with a voice filled with disgust. You told Endeavor off? She asked him, shocked. After he told me your purpose was to be a broodmare for strong children, I knocked him on his ass and threatened his life, saying if he tried to hurt you or your siblings or tried to control you again and I found out about it, he would see the next day. Then I just walked away. He explained to her. Shoko was absolutely shocked at this. Her father, the number 2 hero, one of the most respected men in the country, was told off by an 18-year-old hero hopeful. It boggled her mind. Not only that, but he knocked Endeavor off his feet and threatened his life. It was insane to her. Are you insane? She screamed at him. Probably, Izuku said while he shrugged his shoulders. You know, something has been bothering me about your statement from earlier. And what would that be? She asked, still trying to wrap her head around her previous statement. Well, you called your fire his power. When that is not true at all. That power isn't his. Does he control it? No, you do. Both the ice and fire are your quirk, not his. By only using half of your abilities, you are limiting yourself. Use your full power how you want to and don't let him dictate your life. Be yourself and be the hero you want to be. Izuku yelled at the end. Be a hero I want to be. Shoko thought to herself, and after a few seconds, half of her exploded in fire. She was crying and smiling as he did. You are insane, she told him, still smiling. Izuku just smiled at her, his genuine smile that caught her off guard. Before Izuku could respond, though, Endeavor roared from the crowd and started monologuing. When he reached the end of the stands, a blast of energy was shot next to his head. He recoiled at this, and the crowd looked shocked. They all saw where it came from. Izuku was standing there with his finger aimed at Endeavor, his eyes glowing and a snarl on his face. "One more word out of your mouth, and I'll aim for the head," he informed Endeavor with a scowl. Before Endeavor could say anything, Nizu's voice appeared over the loudspeaker. "Enji, what did we just talk about?" was all that was said. Endeavor just paled slightly and walked off without another word. With that, Izuku turned back to Shoko, who now wore another shocked expression. He was telling the truth, was all she could think at that moment. "Are you ready, Shoko? Come at me with everything now," he told her with a grin. She just nodded and launched an even bigger ice attack than before. I was huge. Izuku decided to rush and punch this one, and when he shattered it, he saw Shoko bring her left hand up covered in heat. "Well, fuck," was Izuku's thought before the explosion. Many covered their faces destruction of that explosion. When the smoke cleared, everyone first saw Shoko still standing a little wobbly, breathing heavily, and with a torn shirt where they could see her black sports bra that seemed to barely contain her chest. What caught everyone off guard, and mostly Shoko, was what they saw after the smoke cleared. Izuku didn't get blown back, but there was something different about his appearance. It was the burn on his chest. He had finally taken damage. This was because of the explosion, while caused by a quirk, more caused by a sudden change of the air pressure, so he took the damage. This was the first time in a long time that had happened. He just looked at Shoko and smiled. "Good job, you finally damaged me," he said as he appeared in front of her like he had teleported. "Can you continue, or are you done?" he asked with some genuine concern in his voice that made her feel all warm inside, and she didn't really know why. She just shook her head and fell into his arms. He just smiled at this and picked her up bridal style. He then looked at Midnight and nodded his head at her raised eyebrow. She announced Izuku the winner, and the crowd went crazy. He just carried Shoko off the stage into the tunnel to take her to Recovery Girl's office. She was half asleep in his arms and just snuggled into him. Shoko just felt safe and warm in his arms. She just wanted to feel closer to him. She then peeked up at him and thanked him. He just smiled at her words and tried to ignore the voice that said worthy. When he looked up, he saw Endeavor. His eyes narrowed and he growled at him. Endeavor just stood there for a second with a look of anger on his face, then just stepped away. After they had turned the corner, Izuku felt a warm hand on his cheek. He looked down and saw Shoko looking at him with a small smile on her face. She just looked perfect for him right there. He just smiled at her again and continued their trek to Recovery Girl. Away from the sports festival, at a small bar in Kamino Ward, sat Tamura Shigaraki. He and Kurojiri were watching everything that happened. They had just watched Izuku beat Monoma. Yeah, the secret boss took out the shitty ripoff of Sensei without even trying. He even looked like he was enjoying beating up the kid. Tamura commented with a laugh. "Yes, he seems to be doing quite well. He has gotten first place in the other rounds, and it looks like he is on the fast track of getting first in the final round as well and winning the whole festival," Kurojiri commented. "Indeed, this young man seems to be already pro-level, if not beyond," All For One said, coming through the TV. "What do you mean beyond, Sensei? Like he is in the top 10? Asked Tamura. "It is too soon to tell you about them, Tamura. For now, just focus on your planning. I believe that young Izuku might be a helping hand for us in the future," All For One commented. "Really, you think he would help us?" Tamura asked with genuine curiosity and excitement. "Yes, I believe he will. I have investigated him, and he was a late bloomer, and by late, I mean he has only had his quirk for 1 year ago, meaning this society for 13 years thought he was quirkless. The abuse he must have taken. You can see it in his movements. He's holding back a tremendous amount of anger. He would be an excellent ally for our endeavor," All For One revealed to Tamura. "Quirkless for so long. Yes, you're right, Sensei. He must hate this society and is probably thinking he can change it from the inside. With his power, he is thinking he could become popular and people will listen to him then," Tamura theorized. "I was thinking the same thing. We will wait and see and watch his progress. Just keep watching him. Kurojiri, I need to speak with you in private for a second. Would you come here?" "Of course," Kurojiri said as he warped to where All For One was in the Nomo lab. "What do you need to discuss?" "I am going to reveal something to you." and you cannot tell Tamura unless I say otherwise, or the very unlikely scenario, I am captured. Understand? Of course, master, what is it? The boy Izuku Midoriya is my son. All for one revealed. Kurojire's eyes widened at that piece of information. No wonder he is so powerful, he commented. That's the thing, he was quirkless medically last time I checked. And this isn't the work of that buffoon All Might, so I don't know where he got this power. I will find out eventually, of course, but he is terribly strong. I can tell he is holding back a lot of his power, and if he goes all out, he would beat All Might or myself easily. That shocked Kurojire to the core. Are you sure, sir? He asked hesitantly. Yes, I am sure he can absorb or negate quirks. It looks like he is immune to damage or effects caused by quirks. It was at this moment that there was an explosion on the TV. What was that, Kurojire? What happened at the festival? Well, according to the announcer, the two-colored hair girl, I believe her name was Shoko Todoroki, chilled the air to a severe degree and then rapidly heated it up, expanding the air extremely quickly, and that caused the explosion. Kurojire informed. How is Izuku? Is he damaged? All for one asked with a mixture of curiosity and slight concern. He seems to be fine. He has slight burns on his chest. I'm going to guess he got the burns from the explosion. It must be, since the explosion wasn't a direct quirk attack, and from the atmospheric change, is the reason he took damage. He obviously has higher than average durability. That is why he only got slight burns. All for one theorized. That looks like the most likely scenario, sir. Go back to Tamura for now, and remember, don't inform him about Izuku yet. Of course, sir. All for one then sat there lost in his thoughts. You are quite powerful, Izuku, and not just having enhancements, but energy attacks, being immune to quirks, and just a powerful dragon transformation. Where did you get this power? All for one thought to himself. Or did you actually have my quirk, and you spent your life taking quirks that could help you reach your dream? Hee. I will find out eventually. We are destined to meet again, my son. All I know is you have potential even greater than me. I know you will eventually surpass me and go beyond to become one of them. Back at the stadium, Izuku had just gotten to Recovery Girl's temporary office. She let him in, and he gently put Shoko down on the bed. She gave him a small smile and thanked him again. Izuku, ignoring the voice again, just waved her off, saying their fight caused this, meaning it was his responsibility to help her afterward. She blushed a little at that, but tried to hide it. Izuku just smiled at this and chuckled. That is when he received one of the weirdest glares he has ever seen. She tried to pull off a cute pout and glare, but she obviously didn't know how to do it, so it just looked a mixture of a piercing glare from her eyes and a cute pout on her lips. Izuku just laughed harder at the face she was making. She then huffed and looked away. All right, you two, I don't need to see children get made, commented Recovery Girl with a sly smile. This caused Izuku to choke on air and Shoko's face to match half her hair color. Recovery Girl then chortled at their reactions. It's okay, dearies. Young love is such a beautiful thing, she said as she walked over and started checking out Shoko. You seem to be fine, just exhausted by the look of you. You can rest in here for a while if you like, though, she said to Shoko, who just nodded. She then turned to Izuku. Let's heal that burn, for you must be painful. Izuku just looked down at it. Not really, no. I have had worse, he commented. That got some surprised looks out of both Recovery Girl and Shoko. The burn may not have been bad, but it covered most of his torso, so it would have to sting. No matter, let's get that healed up, Recovery Girl said as she walked towards Izuku, who was still staring at the burn. Before she could reach him, he held up a hand to stop her. She paused, and before she could say anything, he brought the raised hand to his chest, and he had his hand hover over the burn. Izuku then took a deep breath and closed his eyes. He dug deep into his memories before Acnologia became a dragon slayer, before he forgot his original name. After a minute, he found it the memory he needed. Soon both his hand and the burn started to glow a light green color with a hint of white mixed in. After about 20 seconds of sitting there, the glowing disappeared and the burn was gone. Izuku just looked at the once burned flesh and scoffed internally and mumbled, I am going to need some practice to get the speed up. He may have mumbled the comment, but he said it loud enough for both Recovery Girl and Shoko to hear, who was still trying to get over their shock and awe at his actions just then. Izuku looked up and saw them, they're just staring at him. Oh, yeah, I can use healing powers now. Be it on myself or others. They may not be that strong or fast yet, but with practice, they should be equal or better than yours, recovery girl. Izuku informed them with a slight awkwardness in his tone, a posture that wasn't normal of the Izuku Midoriya they know. You can heal? Recovery girl asked in clarification. Izuku just nodded slowly. Recovery girl, trying to keep her cool, decided to just ask the most pressing questions of what she just witnessed. What are the drawbacks? For example, mine takes the recipient's stamina to speed up the healing process. She asked him, full of curiosity. Mine is the opposite. I heal the wounds by using my own power pool as the power source of the healing. It won't be as bad as a side effect as your healing because of my large reserves. But in the case of a long battle, then I won't be able to as well or won't be able to heal thee at all, he informed her. She just looked at him like he was the answer to all her prayers. Looks like I am getting a new intern, she said to him with a smile. Ah, well, healing isn't my forte, and I prefer battle more. I could be a field medic though, if that's fine. Izuku, reverting to his old self, began to ramble. That is fine, dearie. I am just glad to have someone with such a similar power. Now, she said with a smile. Izuku calmed down at that statement and smiled back as well. That's when they heard the large explosion and looked at the monitor and saw Bakugo send Kirishima flying out of the ring, his hardening broken. Bakugo was declared, and now Izuku has 10 minutes until he is called to the arena. He looked back at Recovery Girl and Shoko and said his goodbyes because he needed to go prepare. He got to the door when he heard his name. Miyazuku. Shoko spoke quietly but with force. Izuku stopped to look back at her. Good luck, she said with a small smile. Izuku smiled back and winked at her as he left her with Recovery Girl as he ignored the voice again. You know, dearie, Recovery Girl started as Shoko turned to her. If you care for him, you should let him know, she said with a knowing look in her eyes. I don't know how I feel yet, and it doesn't matter, he is with that May girl anyway, Shoko said, slightly defending herself with a hint of defeat in her voice. If him being with that other girl is what you are nervous about, she seems like an out there kind of girl, she might be on board for sharing, Recovery Girl said with a small smirk. Sharing? Shoko asked, actually squeaking as she did. Yes, sharing, it isn't uncommon in this day and age. Yes, it isn't the most normal thing, but if everyone consents, then you will have no problems, Recovery Girl informed, nodding sagely in the process. If you ask me, as long as everyone is comfortable, it can be quite beneficial. But that's enough of this old lady's ramblings. Get some rest. You have earned it. With that, Recovery Girl walked out of the room as well. Sharing? Would they be on board for that? Shoko thought to herself. We now have Izuku walking down the hall towards the fighting stage. He forgot to get a shirt, but since he is fighting Bakugo, he decided that it was for the best. His time was almost up, and he ran into May, who was busy tinkering with a baby. Hey you, he said as he stopped in front of her. She stopped to look up, seeing him, and gained a smile on her face. Hi Izu, you ready for your final match? She asked him. Yeah, I am ready. Bakugo is going to be playing it smartly, so I can't underestimate him, he told her as she just nodded her head. Since was already with May, the voice stopped calling her worth, but just says mate. He doesn't know if it means the title or to do the action. He hopes it's the title, and since there is no commanding tone, he assumes it means it is saying her title as his mate, or at least one of them. That thought made his eyes widen. Hey, May, when the tournament is all said and done today, I really need to talk to you about something, preferably tonight. Is that okay? He asked her with some seriousness in his voice. She just looked at him with slightly widened eyes. That last time she heard him use that tone was right before he told her the origins of his power. So, she just nodded her head and agreed. He smiled at that and gave her a tight hug as he kissed the top of her head. Make sure to cheer loudly for me, okay? He requested, and she just nodded her head from his chest. He then let her go when he heard his name over the loudspeaker. He told her he had to get and kissed her cheek one last time before he walked past her to head to the fighting stage. She just looked after him, wondering what was bothering him so much. She shook off the thought so she wouldn't dwell on it. They will talk tonight, and she will find out then. Izuku walked onto the stage the same time that Bakugo did. They stared at each other impassively. Neither showed emotions on their faces. Midnight has started the match, and both just stood there staring. until finally both cracked smirk at each other. They then both walked towards each other. When they were a foot apart, they shook hands. "We are equals from this moment forth," said Bakugo. "No matter who wins or loses, or who is higher in rankings when we are heroes. We will see each other as proper rivals." Izuku responded while Bakugo nodded. "Even if you are a Dragon King, I will still not bow." "Wouldn't dream of it." They both smiled at that. With that out of the way, they both jumped back to get some room. They started eyeing each other seriously, looking for the perfect time to strike. Finally, it was Bakugo to launch forward. He brought his big right hook. Izuku just blocked it with his arm, taking the hit and the explosion. The explosion did nothing, and Izuku was durable enough to take no damage from the hit. Izuku then brought up his own fist for a gut punch. Bakugo saw it coming and quickly got out of the way. Izuku chased after him, and they started fighting in hand-to-hand combat. Explosions were taking place every second with each of Bakugo's hits. Of course, since they were a quirk, they did nothing to Izuku. Izuku decided it was time for himself to use an attack, Dragon's Destruction Fist. He roared as he caught one of Bakugo's arms, so he couldn't dodge. The second the punch landed on Bakugo's face, Izuku let go of the arm, and Bakugo was launched across the arena. Izuku straightened after the punch. He just looked at Bakugo, waiting for him to get up. He was not disappointed because a second later Bakugo launched himself to his feet. He just stared at Izuku. "It's time for something big, Deku." Bakugo yelled at Izuku, not in anger, but a matter-of-fact tone. "What do you have in mind?" Izuku asked him. "Largest blast," Bakugo stated. Izuku just smirked. "You're on," he replied, already bringing his hands up. Bakugo then launched himself in the air, getting higher and higher. Once he reached his peak, he aimed toward Izuku and started rotating faster, and when he got within range, he yelled his technique. "Howitzer impact," he yelled at the top of his lungs. He hit his target, and Izuku had to block it because it wasn't just the explosions created by the quirk anymore. It was explosions and explosions, and those could cause damage. Bakugo was panting after that one. When the smoke cleared, there was Izuku with his arms up. They were burned pretty bad, worse than when he fought Shoko just a little bit ago. He took a deep breath and looked at his arms. "I need to train my durability. That is top of the list for training next." He then looked at Bakugo and grinned. "Good," Izuku drawled out. "This is exactly what I was looking for with you, Bakugo. You are actually putting up a fight. You are proving to be a true comrade," Izuku said, grinning like a loon. "Too bad I have to end this now." With that, Izuku's power exploded out. He stopped holding back his power, and it rushed out. Everyone could feel it, and they felt like the power was crushing them. The one getting the worst effect was Bakugo, since it was so close and Izuku was directing it at him. Izuku then lifted his right hand, used his left one to slash his palm pretty violently. The camera was zoomed in on this, and we see his whole front side of his right and covered in blood. He then points at open palm at Bakugo. "You have one warning, either forfeit or take the blast," was Izuku's ultimatum. Bakugo just looked at his hand. He then spread his arms out and welcomed the blast. Izuku just sighed at this. "Gran Ray Zero," he uttered, and a large dark green and black blast was launched out. Bakugo was engulfed, and a large explosion happened. It covered half of the area. When the smoke finally cleared, it showed Bakugo embedded in the wall out of bounds. Everyone who saw Izuku took down the Nomu was confused until they saw that 10 feet from where Bakugo was standing, the blast started hitting the ground, meaning Izuku aimed low to cause an explosion with enough force to knock Bakugo out of the ring. Soon the thunderous applause started. Izuku Midoriya was named the winner of the first-year sports festival. He was allowed a 30-minute break as prepared for the awards ceremony. So, Izuku just wandered over to Bakugo and peeled him off the wall and threw him over his shoulder and left to go to Recovery Girl. Across town was a young woman watching the sports festival on her phone in an alley. She had long blonde hair done up in a pair of messy buns, yellow cat-like eyes, and was wearing a sailor's uniform with a dark blue skirt, yellow cardigan sweater over the top part with knee-high black socks, and black shoes. She wasn't as well endowed in the chest area as some girls, but had a respectable perky B cup. But she did have some strong legs and thick thighs. She was staring at her pause screen, which showed Izuku cutting his hand and his blood-covered palm. This girl was Himiko Toga, and she has a fascination with blood. She got a huge blush on her face as she saw the bloody hand. He purposely cut it. He may be like me, she thought to herself, getting excited. I need to meet him. He looks so cute with his blood all over his hand, but also so hot as well. Izuku. Wait for me, my Izuku. Those were her thoughts as she stared at her phone. Back to the sports festival, the podiums were built. Izuku was on top spot with Bakugo to his right in second place. Both Kirishima and arrested Shoko were standing on the third place spot. With the winners, Ready Midnight announced that the person to bring them their medals was All Might. He then fell from the sky with the medals in hand. When he gave each person a medal, he gave them a personal message as well. When he got to Izuku, his smile became stained. Izuku saw that and smirked. They stood there for a second until Izuku broke the silence. What's the problem, All Might? Cat got your tongue? He asked with a chuckle. All Might sputtered for a second, and before he could respond, Izuku just took the first place medal from his hand and put it around his neck. I don't need advice from a hypocrite, Izuku said with a death glare and glowing eyes. All Might just backed down after that, too nervous to even try something. That boy is scary. The last time I have seen eyes the scary was. All Might froze with that thought. He then tried to shake that thought off as he announced the winners, and they screwed up the ending cheer. In a specific cave that is on an island in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, and 6 astral projections appeared. The projections weren't the clearest things, so no one could see any defining features, but they have all met before, so they already knew what each other looked like. Plus, they appeared on a specific platform with a number on it. So, everyone knew who was who. So, I see our illustrious leader isn't here for a meeting again. One of them commented with a sarcastic and disrespectful tone. You should feel lucky to even be here. 6. Our leader is the only one whose time is too valuable to come to all of these meetings, a feminine voice replied. You can fuck off. 3. I don't have to listen to a whore like you, the now named 6 roared. You are a lower number, meaning I am your superior, and everything I say to you is law. The now named 3 replied with authority. As much as I like watching you two having a pissing match, I would like to know why we are here. The one on the platform marked 4 said. Of course, sir. The reason I called this meeting is that I found someone with potential, informed the one on the standing on the platform marked 7 said. This caught the attention of everyone in the meeting now. Someone with potential, you say? Came the voice of the person sitting on the number 2 platform. That hasn't happened for 20 years now. So describe him. Of course, Lord. The person of 7 replied. The person is named Izuku Midoriya, and not an hour ago, he won the UA first-year sports festival in Japan. What about it, All Might? He won that too back in the day, and he isn't on our level, the one on the 6 platform commented. That may be, but this young man got first in every event. Also, his power is quite the special one. Ho, and pray tell what is so special about this kid and his power, the one standing on the number 3 platform asked. Let me just showed you, was the reply. Then a 3D projection of Izuku Midoriya appeared. It showed his highlights of the first and second rounds. It also showed all his fights in the third round. As these were showed, the person on the number 7 platform gave backstory about what was going on and described Izuku's abilities and his origins. The ability to negate or absorb quirk output, you say, with the ability to use energy attacks, also enhancements. Plus, that transformation that he didn't even need. Also, the way he just dominated the competition, and he only had that power for a year. You are right, he does have potential. Number 4 thought out loud. He is a masterpiece. I can't wait to get my hands on him, or to get under him. Number 3 said in a sultry tone. God, you are such a whore. But the kid looks like he would be a good fight. I can't wait till I meet him. I'll crush him. Were SIX's outspoken thoughts. He looks like a possible ally, was the first word spoken by the person standing on the 5th and platform. You will leave him alone for now. Do I make myself clear? The voice of number 2 busted out with authority. Before anyone could complain, he spoke again, unleashing his power with so much force that even no matter where any of them were on Earth, they could feel his power and shivered. Do I make myself clear? He roared out. The rest just nodded their heads and quickly agreed. Dismissed, he said. With that, all then canceled their projections. The only projection left was number 2's, and after about 10 seconds a projection appeared on platform 1. What was the meeting about? was all they said. The person on platform 2 then gave the rundown about Izuku Midoriya. What are your thoughts on him? Asked one. I think he may be worthy, was the reply. Even though 7 will be keeping an eye out of his power increase and accomplishments. I will as well. The boy has piqued my interest. With that, the projection on 1 disappeared. Well, nephew, you seem to have made a name for yourself, huh? With that said, the person on the second platform disappeared, as leaving the cave empty once again. Now, at the Hero Commission boardroom, they were having a meeting as well. This boy is too powerful. I heard he killed the beast meant to kill All Might. One of the board members said. That's correct. He is getting stronger by the day. We have to reel him in while we have the chance. Before anyone else could talk, the head commissioner raised a hand, silencing the rest of the room. I have the boy's file. He has only had his quirk for a year. He was interrupted by the uproar his statement caused. He smacked his hand on the table to regain their attention. His potential is limitless, and I thoroughly believe that this boy has the makings of a king. His words shocked the room into silence. I am not the only one to believe this. I have also received a message from Nizu. He personally believes that boy will be a king. He informed me that boy is under UA's protection, so we can't try to get to him. But we need to get on this boy's good side, though. If he becomes a king and we have pissed him off, he could destroy us without a second thought, because the only person above him will be the other kings, and they don't care what he will do in his territory. This made every board member look at each other and agree with the head commissioner's words. I have also received another message from Nizu today, telling me that Endeavor pissed off Izuku Midoriya and vice versa. It's now our responsibility to get this under control. I will personally call Endeavor to make sure he is to leave Izuku Midoriya alone without revealing the kings. I will also personally call the Prime Minister to let him know we have a king in the making and the boy must not hate his own country. But by the looks of his file, this will be an uphill battle because since he only got his quirk a year ago, that made the people around him think he was quirkless, and according to Nizu, he was abused because of it. We must make sure this king doesn't go on a killing spree once he becomes one. The rest of the board agreed with the head commissioner, and they got to work. It is 9 p.m. and Izuku is sitting on his bed waiting for Mei to show up so they can have their talk. He has no idea what he is going to say. He knows what he needs to talk about, but he doesn't know how he is going to word it. This is the first time in over a year now that he has felt nervous. It was then he heard a knock on his door. He got up and went to answer it. When he opened, Mei was standing there. She surprisingly wasn't wearing her work clothes. She was wearing one of his t-shirts that she stole, so it hung to her thighs, and it could see the smallest amount of fabric from under the shirt, meaning she was wearing short shorts. If he wasn't about to have a serious conversation with her, he may have attacked her right then and there. She was looking at him and away nervously. He invited her in, and she robotically walked over to his bed and sat down without making a sound. Just looking at her, Izuku knew she was worried about the conversation they were about to have. He walked over to her and sat down next to her on the bed. Before he could say one word, she suddenly blurted, "Are you breaking up with me?" He just recoiled at that question. What? No, I am not breaking up with you. He tried to reassure her as he wrapped her up in a hug. No, I am not breaking up with you. But this conversation is about our relationship. He told her. Okay, if you are not breaking up with me, then what do you need to talk about? She asked into his shoulder. Izuku took a deep breath and started to tell her what was happening to him because of his dragon blood. He told her when he mates it will be for life. But since he is a dragon king, he will have more than one. He can't control it, it's part of his heritage now. He told her it has already started too. He said his dragon instincts have called her his mate, but is now calling other girls like Nijire, Shoko, and Momo worthy of him. He can't control it, and since he has been hearing the voice, he has been looking at them differently and thinking about them as suitable mates. He explained everything to her and told her if she wanted to leave, he wouldn't stop her because he didn't want to hurt her. After his explanation, she leaned up and kissed him passionately. Izuku froze for 1 second, but soon kissed her back. But he couldn't let her have control. His dragon pride was telling him he needs to dominate her. So, he moved his right hand to the back of her head, and the left slowly made its way to her right breast. When he grabbed her breast, he realized she wasn't wearing a bra. He squeezed her breast hard and pulled on her hair at the same time to make her gasp in shock. Once he did that, he shoved his tongue in her mouth to show her who was in charge. She moaned into the kiss and just submitted it to him. After the kiss broke, they were panting, and Izuku put his forehead to hers. So, I am guessing you are not breaking up with me? No, I understand you can't control it. I know if you would if you could. I know for a fact that Nijire has feelings for you. And after today, and what you did for Shoko, and I know you talked to Momo too. I could bet money on them having feelings for you too. So, I can get on board with sharing with you. I know that you are a wonderful guy, and those girls chose a winner. So if they want to share you too, they can join us. She said to him with a look in her eye he couldn't place. I am sorry for making you have to do this for me. Izuku told her, now feeling guilty she would have to do this. Don't be, you can't control your instincts, but I do ask one request if we are going to do this. She informed him. Anything. Let me be your first, she whispered into his ear. The next morning, Izuku woke up feeling so much lighter than ever before. He felt content and loved. He looked to his left and saw Mei snuggled into his side. She was his mate now, that was for sure. He looked at her, and the love he felt for her must have been multiplied by 100. He just sat laid there playing with her hair. He will have others, yes, but she will always have the most special place in his heart as first. He could say it now, he was in love with the girl laying by his side. He then wrapped his arms around her and pulled her close. He just laid there and held her in his arms. He just took in her scent. She was his, and no one will take her away from him. At that stray thought, he froze. That was pretty possessive, he thought. Must be by dragon instinct saying, since she is my mate, she is mine and mine alone. He just brushed it off, though, and just held her. His mind started drifting back to last night. She had as much energy as she always had, but he may have outpaced her last night, though. His dragon stamina helped last night. They went about 4 rounds before she just passed out in his arms. He could have gone more, but he had enough calm down, though. It was at this moment that she started to stir in his arms. She yawned cutely and slowly opened her eyes. She tried to focus her eyes, and when she did, she realized she was face to face with Izuku, who was looking down at her and smiling. Morning, was all he said to her. Good morning, she replied sweetly as she leaned up and kissed him softly and lovingly. Izuku smiled into their kiss. When they broke, Izuku held her gaze and said the words he has been thinking all morning. I love you. She froze, trying to process what he said. When her mind started responding again, she squealed, wrapped her arms tightly around him. I love you too, she said with nothing but love and fulfillment in her tone. Izuku smiled at this. They were in love, and it made him happy. Then his thoughts began to wander. He soon realized if the others are on board with the sharing, it won't be just the both of them anytime soon. Izuku then thought they should get that out of the way sooner than later. But as he looked down at Mei, he knew he should hold it off for now. He will talk to her later about it. It was a Saturday, so they will have plenty of time to discuss things. About an hour later, they decided to head downstairs to get some breakfast. Izuku put on a clean pair of clothes while Mei just wore what she had on yesterday. When they got to the common area, everyone was hanging out, even Bakugo and Shoko. Izuku could hear food being made, so he knew they were waiting on Sato, who was probably cooking the meal. Yo Izuku, good to see you up, Kirishima yelled out, causing the rest of the class to take notice of him and greet him as well. Izuku just put up the hand that Mei wasn't holding on to and smiling like an idiot. The rest of the class took notice of her as well and greeted her. She greeted them as well. Hey Mei, are you trying something different because you are practically glowing? Mina cheered out. This caused the rest of the class to study Mei as well. Yes, she's right, Mei, you are glowing. What's your secret? Uraraka asked. Mei just blushed a little bit and looked away from Izuku. This was seen by everyone. Then slowly, one by one, everyone's eyes began to widen. It was Kaminari to say it so eloquently, though. Holy shit, you guys fucked, didn't you? He asked. This got the class to sputter at how roughly he put it. Izuku just groaned, and Mei blushed more. It's true, Mina then yelled. Izuku decided to say fuck it. Yes, we were intimate last night, and no, that isn't any of your business. He said to them. He decided he needs to talk to Mei. He pulled her back up the stairs. He could talk to her privately. Okay, I know we have a lot of free time. I need you to ask both Momo and Shoko to meet us in my room tonight. I will text Nijire the same message. We should let them know they need to keep the meetup a secret. Do you think you can do that? He asked at the end of his instructions. May just pulled him down to meet her for a kiss. When they broke, she smiled and answered him, "Yes, I can do that. After all, I am the first wife." This caught Izuku completely off guard. "Wife?" is all he asked. "Well, you did tell me dragons mate for life, and since I am your mate, that means I am your wife. And I was your first everything, so that makes me first wife. So, it is my job to help you handle the rest," she informed him in a matter-of-fact tone. Izuku just stared at her for a